All right, guys, welcome back for another Media Matrix. This time we're doing American Psycho, and we've got a guest here, old Johnny Kramer. Um,
Hey, how's it going?
Glad to have you here. I knew that I knew that when I suggested a couple of movies and you wanted in, I knew this was the one you were going to pick, like
Oh,
automatically.
you, you know it, dude. I'm ready. You guys ready for a low budget movie? Did you guys know that the budget for this was like 7 mil?
No,
I'm
but
shocked
that
that
doesn't surprise me,
I'm
actually.
shocked that even covered Christian Bale's payment, like in total.
Well, that's the crazy thing is he was actually kind of like a no-name when they pulled him into this. He hadn't really done much. Like he was 26 when they shot this. He was like young blood. He had done TV, like just like young British actor. And actually, when they were like trying to fill this role, Christian Bale was not the first name. He was like way down the list. Like the first name, Leonardo DiCaprio. He was
Ooh.
originally on board to play this role, but then he turned it down because of his like he had that like romance, teen idol sort of image, and then of course like going down the list, you got like Johnny Depp, Brad Pitt, Edward Norton. I mean, they went through like everybody, like who's hot right now, and then the director ended up landing on Christian Bale.
I think without Bale, this is a very different movie,
Oh yeah, oh
Yeah,
yeah.
there's no way it would have worked with any of
especially
those guys.
DiCaprio. That's a strange casting for this.
That would have been a major like left field. Thinking about like coming from Titanic to being like a yuppie serial killer, it's like that would be such like I can understand why his agency probably was like, no, like you're not gonna take this.
I could maybe see
Mm.
Johnny Depp doing this, but even at 2000, I feel like he was maybe a little old.
Well, the thing too is that like one of the main things about the character of Patrick Bateman is like how physically fit he is. And I'm sorry, but DiCaprio and Depp are kind of like they're kind of waifs. They're like little dudes, right? It wouldn't work.
Yeah.
Can you imagine DiCaprio with like muscles?
Yeah, it's weird.
Yeah, imagining him ripped is like really surreal.
Yeah, it wouldn't work.
Christian
And
Bale is
Depp
what? How
either.
tall? He's over 6, I would assume. Like
Yeah.
he's tall and fit.
Oh,
Exactly. But I
Bale?
feel like who Bale or Depp?
Bale or Depp? Yeah, Depp's a little guy.
Bale. Oh, Christian Bale is exactly 6 feet tall.
Yeah.
Mm.
Is
So
Johnny
he's
Depp
he's
short? I actually didn't know.
he's right on the cutoff. He's basically the
Basically,
new
all
5'11".
the male actors are little,
Johnny
except for
Depp is
with a few
5'10".
exceptions. Yeah, so he's
I didn't even.
average.
Yeah,
That
he's
is
shorter than
true.
I thought.
Anything under 6 is short. I agree.
Yeah, you would say that.
I would. So let's start. So right, the movie starts out, they're in like a fancy restaurant and like they're going over these like it shows like the waiters like going over this like pretentious ass menu of shit that I couldn't even comprehend because I'm, a poor. And they're all like just him and his coworkers are just like talking at the table or whatever when we get the good like cool it with the anti-Semitic remarks meme.
Yeah,
I don't remember that one guy's name, but yeah, he's like talking shit about Jews or whatever.
yeah. I think they
Uh,
were just like shooting the shit. I think one guy in the business was Jewish, and they were kind of ragging on him a little bit.
yeah.
And then Bale basically steps in. He kind of virtue signals. Is one of the things you see a lot in the movie, at least, where there's like a bunch of pre-approved like statements you're supposed to make so that you sound like a good person, but no one is authentic, you know?
Yeah, it's
So
all like
when he says
corporate like
that,
HR nonsense.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I don't know if like John, if you see what I mean by that, but
When they were ragging on him, they were kind of making jokes about his girlfriend, right? They were saying she works for like the UCLA or something, and then he goes into it on this all kind of like rant, that classic, like you said, the meme, cool it with the anti-Semitic remarks.
and I wanted to mention one thing I want to say because there is a lot to like. I like this movie despite everything. One of the things I really like is the way it opens, which you kind of like glossed over, where they show there it looks like blood and gore, but it's actually food preparation, and it's a really good like juxtaposition. I don't know if you noticed that. Like there's like the sauces that are dripping on the screen while they're introducing the movie and showing you who's in it, but it looks like blood. So there's like you can't tell if you're looking at blood on the screen or food on the screen. And then they show you it's a plate of food, at the end of the credits or
Mm.
like as they're wrapping up. And then you get like the waiters giving these crazy like, dishes and stuff.
It's like elegant music, fine dining, but
Yeah,
there's
yeah.
like obviously you're supposed to draw these like this is like really visceral. You got the knife coming down and like chopping meat. You're supposed to
Yeah,
like draw
exactly.
these
Yeah.
conclusions between fine living and like visceral sort of like violence.
Yeah, no, that's totally accurate. You're right. I would think I was just too focused on like how fucking pretentious that all that shit sounded.
Yeah, like
Yeah,
the
it
But no,
was
you're
really
totally
over the
right.
top. Like, have you guys ever been to like a really big like high end restaurant before like that?
I've been to a couple, and I have never felt comfortable in those places at all.
a best place I've been, a highest end place I've been, in Vegas. They got that restaurant in the Eiffel Tower. Yeah, I've been there. That's pretty good.
Yeah, I went to some in Chicago when I used to live in Chicago, and I had a friend who worked. His wife and him, they worked in tech, so they had a lot of money, and they'd take me out to dinner sometimes, and they'd have like those big plates with little bits of food in the middle and sauces drizzled everywhere. But it was, I think that even for that atmosphere, the movie really like goes way overboard. Like it's so over the top. And that's one of the things is that I think the movie, I don't know about the books, I never read it. I know that you have, Kramer, but the movie is like one of the reasons why I love it is because it is so ridiculous. Like so much of it is just really over the top. And I'm like wondering if the people who made it are serious or if they think do they know that this is silly, you know? But
So I wanna, if I can, I'm gonna throw a wrench into this whole thing, and I'm gonna ask you: do you think this movie's woke?
no. I think it's trying to be though.
Hmm.
I think it was trying to be because the people who made the film are progressive feminists, and they were trying
Hmm.
to say, and there's interviews of them saying they were trying to say something about toxic masculinity and stuff, and they were even puzzled by the fact that it became so viral in terms of the memes, and so many like sort of right wing young guys were like unironically getting behind Patrick Bateman, and they were like, "You're not supposed to like him; he's crazy," But
Yeah,
it
you're.
didn't land. So I think it was they were trying to say something. And I know this because based on what I've seen about interviews and stuff, they were trying to say something about capitalism and white toxic masculinity and like whiteness and all of it. Just like we were like, yeah, obviously, but you're so like ham-fisted with it. I'm just gonna laugh. And I already know that Bret Easton Ellis had a slightly different approach. Like it was more nihilistic and maybe he was trying to say something about like the 80s and materialism, but not necessarily going all into the whole like toxic masculinity uh, sort of angle because that wasn't really a thing when the book was written. That was like as as sort of academically pursued, if that makes sense.
Yeah, the book was released in '91.
So yeah, I never read it, but I don't think that's what he was going for. And as I understand it, the book is a lot more visceral and graphic in terms of the violence and stuff,
Hmm.
and it's also a lot less like just from what I heard because I haven't read it myself, but you have. I heard that it's not as narrative, like it's gotten
Oh
like a
yeah.
more unreliable narrator in it, whereas the movie because it's a movie, it kind of had to have I guess like a conclusion, and the other thing is way more ambiguous.
So the book basically has like no plot. Like this movie barely has a plot. And like did you guys feel like it was like you were on a plot, or did you feel like it was kind of disjointed and kind of all over the place?
I'll let Dean
Did it
say something first.
did it feel linear to you?
No, not really. It kind of felt like all over the place. Like it was jumping like various times. Like there was no real concept of like how long it had been like after anything. But like kind of like Brian was saying about like the unreliable narrator. Since we have like Bateman as the main character, and he's fucking insane. It kind of makes sense that the entire plot and time structure of the movie is also kind of unhinged, insane, and scattered all over the place.
Yeah, like things don't appear to be like you don't know what's happening and what isn't happening. Like what's a delusion and what's real in the movie. And I don't mind that. I like that it kind of raises. I like that there's like something you can talk about afterwards. But I think the
Yeah.
book is probably does that better. Probably.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've read the book a couple times. I love it. The thing that's crazy about the book is because so when I first saw this movie, none of this like behind the scenes stuff was like in my head at all about the director and stuff, and we can like talk
Yeah.
about that because the behind the scenes stuff on that is pretty crazy. When I first saw this movie, I didn't have that context. I just I saw it when I was I want to say 16, so I was sort of identifying with Bateman. I thought
Bateman.
he was cool. I like wanted
Because he was
to know.
confident. Yeah.
Yeah, and I was a horror fan. I love the gore. I wanted more, so I started reading the book. The book delivers. If you're looking for, like, if the humor is what you're looking for, this extreme violence and stuff, the crazy cuts to different things. Because in the book they'll be arguing for like a chapter about like sparkling water, like what's the best mineral water, and then the next scene he's hooking like a car battery up to some woman's tits just to see if they explode. And like think the book is like way over the top. And when it came out, actually, like feminists were protesting this book. I think they were destroying books,
Hmm.
yeah, at like stores and stuff. So like they hated it when it came out. um
Yeah. Well,
and
feminists are not known for being consistent on what they support and don't. But what if the screenplay and the directors, the people who are doing the film, were trying to like take control over the narrative that the original author had? Like, what if they were trying to change things? Because they definitely, I can find you some it was like a interview done in a on a website where the filmmakers were talking about the way that men are gravitated towards the Bateman character, and how they were like shocked, like that shouldn't have happened. It's like a death of the author thing. You know.
yeah, and if you look into the director, it's kind of like horrifying. Her name's Mary Harron.
Hmm.
She directed a movie called I Shot Andy Warhol about the radical feminist. Went
Yeah,
on
Valerie Solanas. Yeah.
she went on her. If you look at her career on IMDb, it's like she did a ton of TV. She did this movie, and then she went on to do a bunch more TV. Like all she's done is like TV and like feminist romance stuff.
Hmm.
And there was an article where she was talking about, like, she gets asked, why did you pick this up, right? Because feminists hate the book, hate the movie. Heron said that it was like a feminist critique, right? She said, so this is like a quote from her. So, focusing on the homoerotic rituals and extreme competition among alpha males, which she and the co writer Genevieve Turner, who is gay, saw a gay man's satire
Yes.
on masculinity. Yeah, so these are like radical feminists. And Bret Easton Ellis is a bit better. He has come out and said that like the movie couldn't be done today, or the book even. The book couldn't be done today, because the feminists don't get that he is making this sort of like deeper critique of hypercapitalization, hyper materialization, and like a quote from him that he thought he was making a feminist book because he wanted to highlight the hypermaterialization
Yes.
as
The
being
late stage capitalism and all that.
as
Yeah.
being like taking advantage of women, over sexualization, all of this stuff. So when I was thinking about this and when I saw the movie, I had none of this context. I just kind of identified with Patrick Bateman, thought he was cool. Come to see
Well,
the
that says something about you, I guess. No,
yeah, I
no.
know.
The thing is, though, like but that makes perfect sense. Like I looked into, I know what you said about the homoerotic nature. Like they were trying to suggest that Bateman's, or any man who cares about his appearance and takes time to like work out and take care of himself. Now, of course, the Bateman thing is, we're really, again, it's really exaggerated. The skin routine is insane. All the stuff that he does. And I'm sorry for jumping around, Dean. If you wanted to do this in the chronological, like the way that it plays out and go through the scenes, but they were trying to say, if you do this, you might be gay. And one thing that feminists and progressives in general do is they constantly attack masculinity in men, and they try to like convince them. One of the ways they do it is try to convince them that they're actually gay and they just don't know it. And so like anything you do to better yourself just means that you might be gay, and that's what they suggest. So when men were still just saying, "No, man, Patrick Bateman is based. Like I like him anyway," they were like confused, like, "Well, I told you he was gay. Why aren't you upset by that?" Or becoming gay, like going along with the programming, because they believe that men and women, masculinity itself is not a real thing. It's just socialized. So they just have to socialize you the way that they want to. And I think that Bret Easton Ellis thinking that he, was making a feminist book is just evidence that he was also, because I think that I tried to figure out if he was gay and that this was like a book about, a guy that was going through some like homosexual things that he was frustrated about. Because I know a lot of like, these tortured artist types, they have like repressed like trauma or something that they're like expressing through their work. And so I was like, I wonder if he's gay, but I couldn't find any concrete proof of it. But I did find that I guess he's experimented, like, so that could be a thing. But I think that he was trying to make something that was feminist friendly, and it turned out that it wasn't feminist friendly enough because he was trying to demonize men, but they saw it as him just attacking women through the work, which is like because he was the psychopath that was, wanted to explode titties with car batteries. So they, of course, take the wrong thing away from it, and it makes perfect sense.
Yeah. So me at 16, right? I'm thinking, I'm like, okay, this is awesome. Now today, with all of this context, I'm thinking that this is a accidentally based production. Like once
Yes,
again,
accidentally based. Yes, like Starship Troopers, unintentionally based. Yes, but because it's so, when you look at what they're trying to do, it's laughable because you can tell they don't actually understand men. Like they don't understand men because they think that we're supposed to feel a certain way and that we can't separate, the art from the artist, for example, which I think you can. Like I think that Patrick Bateman, like Christian Bale, he knocked it out of the park. No one else could do that performance. Nobody. I mean, there are people who are good actors, but they couldn't do that.
Yep.
And you've seen some of the other stuff Bale's done, right? Like, I'm not talking about Batman. I mean, like The Machinist, and
Yep.
there was this movie where he's like a boxer, The
Oh yeah,
Prestige. What was it?
Out of the Furnace.
Yeah,
Are you talking about Out of the
yeah,
Furnace? That one's such a good one too.
yeah. He's really good, and I think because he's one of these guys that like, he's like almost like a method guy. Like, what's his
Definitely.
name? Daniel Day Lewis.
Mm.
So, but anyway, sorry. So, Dean, I'm sorry. Where were we in the plot?
The
Or are we
very,
just like
very
riffing?
beginning. At the very fucking beginning.
I know.
It was a good rant, but we gotta make sure we get through all this.
Okay, cool. All right, let's go through
All right, so we'll kind of like
chronologically.
start over again. Like you mentioned, like they're reading that pretentious menu, and while they're doing that, it's like juxtaposition showing like all the blood and gore that like in the food or whatever that's supposed to mean you know something else. We get the cool it with the anti-Semitic remarks. They're about to like leave the restaurant, and it's like, oh, it's only $570 for lunch. Showing just how upscale this bullshit is. And like just how much it's
Mm-hmm.
spent, right? So then we get to the
517,
next
not
scene.
bad.
We get to
Yeah,
the next scene,
they're all throwing their
and
credit cards on the table at the same time.
it's at
Yeah,
the
they're
night.
gold and platinums.
Yeah, they
They'd
all
like
have the same
throw their
cards
heavy
too.
metal cards onto the ball.
So we get to the next scene. It's at the nightclub, and Bateman is over there like ordering a drink, and he calls the bartender an ugly bitch and threatens her, but no one seems to hear it, which I guess is like your first sign that like he's not well, or that this movie in general is just kind of gonna bend reality in a way.
Yeah, like well, that's the thing. It's very clever because they make the club noisy, so you think, oh well, he couldn't hear her because it's noisy. But
Yeah.
then later, you will go back after you watch the movie, you'll go back and think, oh, maybe it was because he didn't actually do that, or he never said that out loud. It was in his head. Like it's we don't know.
Yeah, you're right. Like the noise in the club kind of like makes you think that like it shows like a little bit of doubt. Like, did he actually say that? Maybe he did and he didn't hear it, or she didn't hear it. Yeah, I
Hmm.
totally agree.
She even turned away, so that's like an added like believability.
Yeah, yeah. She turns away while he's talking to her.
Yeah.
He like talks behind her back.
The thing is,
Yeah,
I
then
think
we
he may actually be saying these things. I think he may actually be like just about to attempt these things, like very tempted to do these things. I don't know. I just get the feeling that obviously, like, spoiler alert for my opinion at the end, I don't think he killed anybody at all. But I think these urges, and I think the the things that he's saying and these little risks that he's taking, I think those are actually 100% real.
Then like we get to the next scene and it's showing Bateman's like really meticulous routine. I don't know how I feel about this scene. I always thought it went into like way too much detail. I don't know really what the point of that was, other than to show that he's like very self-obsessed.
I think that's what it's trying to show you, the lengths he would go to like essentially like look and feel his absolute best, and you can hear it in what he tells you, like why he does everything that he does, and he doesn't think it's extreme. That's another thing. He doesn't think it's extreme, and it ends. What does he say? Like at the end, after all of that, he's like peeling the face mask off.
It's like
That
all
like
about like
Yeah.
fitting in, I think.
Yeah, there's an idea of a Patrick Bateman, an abstraction, right?
yes, right.
He's not real.
That he's not real, but he desperately, and it's the thing that I think a lot of people miss, that I think is the most important takeaway, is he is desperately trying to connect to people. I think that's, but like no one around him appears to be like real, even his girlfriend, right, or his fiance or whatever. But anyway,
Yeah.
go ahead.
Did you guys notice like in that scene like where he's like working out or whatever, it shows like his balcony or whatever, and like the background is just like this cheap like cardboard cutout. It's like really obvious.
No, I didn't see that. Like, there's no outside.
No,
There.
it's it's just a cardboard like picture of like a cityscape.
Yeah.
It's
When
really
they're
Oh,
cheap and
inside,
easy to see.
that's the budget, right?
It
yeah, when
must
they're in,
be.
Couldn't even
yeah,
rent
most
a
of the
place.
time when they're inside, if you look outside, it's usually like a flat, like they're on a set.
Yeah, it's very obvious. And I noticed when I first saw this movie, like it was in high school, and obviously like way after it came out, like a decade or more. And I saw it like on DVD or whatever. But this time around, I watched it on Blu-ray, and I could notice like obviously like a lot more detail than before because it's higher resolution and all that. So I noticed like film grain and such. So I was really curious as to like what they shot this on,
I
because
don't
it
know
seems
for
like they
sure,
shot
but
it
I
with an
bet.
older method.
Oh, I bet you it's digital.
Like the
I
film
don't
grain is
know.
digital.
I bet you. So let's get a bet going. You think it's actual film, like shot on film? Because I don't
It
know.
looked it
I
looked
don't
like it.
remember. I think it's
Well, considering
digital.
when it came out, I don't think the digital thing was.
This had to have been
2000
shot, I
was
assume, in like '99 if it came out in 2000.
2000 was like the digital boom, right? And then you had all the everything was going to.
Oh, I just got the answer. It was shot on 35 millimeter film.
Yeah,
Okay. Wow. Okay.
that makes sense because like the digital thing was very new, so it would have been expensive. And you mentioned the budget, so they probably just shot it on 35 millimeter.
Yeah, it was unnoticeable to me on DVD because it's only 480p, but the Blu-ray is 1080, so it was a lot easier to detect.
Gotcha. Yeah. And
Um,
like, I mean, we're talking 7 million at the time, adjusted for inflation, that's like 12, 13 million. And you could shoot a really, really good movie for that money, but not in New York. Not if you're doing like shots in New York and stuff.
Yeah,
But yeah, I mean, that's the thing is like if you look deeply at the sets and stuff, especially like the clubs are obviously just like warehouses and stuff. Like when I first saw this, I did not notice this stuff at all. I was just so enthralled into the story.
yeah. Well, yeah, you can do wonders with only a little money. I mean, you can usually tell that it's kind of lower budget because there isn't a big cast. There aren't a lot of people. There's only a handful of locations. There's no really big shots. A lot of them are very like intimate
yeah,
scenes. So like you can do that for pretty cheap, and the performances are what you watch it for. There's no spectacle really.
Mhm.
So
I think that's also just like me, like part of like my game dev background is like when I'm watching like a movie or TV show, I'm constantly thinking about like the production, like how they filmed this or how they did this shot or this angle or how they faked this or whatever. Like that's always in my head with everything that I watch. So I guess I kind of like overly look for things like that.
I wonder how much was production and how much was paying the actors.
yeah.
I'm sure. I mean, it's an old enough movie. I'm sure that like the answer's out there. But
Mm.
yeah, if Christian Bale was a nobody back then, I don't know how much he would have gotten. And we'll get to it. But like Jared Leto's in this movie too. And
Well,
I'm
he was
not really
also
sure
pretty small
how.
at the time, though.
Yeah, yeah.
I think the biggest actor in this movie was Willem Dafoe.
Who's
Oh yeah.
phenomenal
Um,
in this.
Who is amazing. Yeah, and we'll certainly get to that. But like at the end of the scene where he's like really meticulous, like it's clear that like he knows he's fucking crazy. Then like
mhm.
it cuts to the office for the first time, and you get the meme of him that Kramer actually sent like right as we're about to do this of him walking through with the headphones on.
Yes.
Which there are like 40 memes made of this movie. So every time I
Yeah.
notice him, I write him in my note, like, oh, here's such and such meme. So then like he tells his secretary like what he likes and like what he wants her to wear. Which is
Hmm.
fucking really crazy to think of in 2025. Like that's got like Me Too shit like written all over it.
Yeah.
I'm like,
Well, that's
no
another.
shot he gets away with that now.
I think that's another reason why people like. That's the thing. What we like about Christian Bale's character is that it's really like people will say it's the confidence, but obviously it's not that. Like he's borderline dark triad. You know, like in terms of like what he expects, and especially from women. But the thing is, they respond to it though too. So like he tells her, you should do this, you should wear this, and she'll do it. So, you know, that's what I think feminists got pissed off about. is is
Yeah,
that like that
honestly, yeah,
kind of assertiveness is effective. So,
extremely.
and it's admirable.
So then we get to Bateman and his fiance Evelyn, and they're in a limo. He's just got headphones on, listening to music, and she just won't shut the fuck up. She's just rambling, and he
Yep.
just clearly doesn't give a shit at all.
Yeah,
She
early
mentions that,
Reese Witherspoon.
yeah, she mentions that Bateman's dad practically owns the company, which I guess explains like why he is where he is, at least to an
Yeah.
extent.
Hmm.
He mentions like his main motivation is fitting in, I guess trying to disguise himself as much as possible.
Not even I don't think it's wanting to disguise himself. I think he wants to.
Do you think it's more like intrinsic, like he wants to be them more than wants to fake being them?
Yeah, no, I think he wants to be accepted. Like acceptance is what we're all kind of looking for anywhere. And like what Brian said, which is crazy at the end, I think you'll agree with me, Brian, when we keep jumping all over the place. I'm sorry, Dean, but when he's breaking down at the phone booth, it's like genuinely like sad. Like because his performance there, it's not funny
Yeah.
anymore. It's genuinely
Well,
like
it's just like when he
seeing somebody
calls his
break
lawyer the
down.
night before too. Like that, I
Hmm.
think that's when he's at his most authentic because then you get. That's why, I'm with you. Like he's looking to connect, and that the movie becomes a conversation about whether or not he is crazy or the world is crazy, and he's like the only sane person. And I think that's another thing that the people don't like quite get about why he becomes like kind of a admirable character because it's like that feeling that everybody's crazy except you, and that's clear by the ending too. I don't want to. We're not going to get to that, but when we do, I'll talk about that.
Well, it's like, talking about like jumping around a little bit. Like you can tell like there's a couple times he like brings up serial killers and you can see it like in his face and the way he says it that he
Yeah,
does actually kind of admire and like connect to these people because
yeah.
they
This
do
is like
share that
how he
thing in common
starts
with
small
him.
talk, right? Like he doesn't
Yeah.
want to talk about the bullshit like that everyone else talks about. Like there's a scene, actually I think it's right around where you're at, where we are now, where he's like I don't know, they're at another lunch. It's like these guys don't do any work. They just like go to lunch and
Yeah,
lunch,
you don't
brunch,
see
and
them
dinner.
working actually the entire
Yeah, you
movie.
don't ever see them working, but like they're at another dinner and he's there with his friends, like is it Bryce and I forget the other guy's name. And oh no, it's a dinner thing and they're talking about like I think it's at the club actually. And I remember that they're talking about what they think like what basically how to fix the world's problems. Do you remember that scene? And there's like they're like in the club and there's like New Order's playing and there's a couple of weird like
Yeah.
scene kids and
Oh yeah, they're
We're
at the
we're
and
almost
sushi
there.
restaurant.
Yeah, we're
we're
almost there.
almost there.
We'll
Okay,
get right
okay.
to that. Yeah.
All right. I'm
Yeah, so
sorry.
like they
I'll bring it up then because that's a good
yeah,
scene.
it's like right here. But yeah, like, you're talking about the restaurant, like after him and his fiance are like in the limo, they're going to that expensive restaurant,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And Bateman mentions like as the narrator that Evelyn's having an affair and Bateman knows and she doesn't know that he knows, but he's also having his own affair with
Yeah.
the gay guy's wife. I always forget
Yeah.
Lewis, I think his name or his fiance. So yeah,
Yes.
like so we're right here now, right? So Bateman goes on this like empty like political rant, and it's kind of funny because at the end he mentions anti-materialism, and like that's the part that made everyone break and laugh because like they're self-aware that like their entire existence is like extremely materialistic.
Yeah. Yeah, but he says, what does he say? He basically lists off a bunch of things that we need to do to make the world better, and it just
Yeah,
comes across as a script, right? like, end world hunger, solve climate change. And I love that scene because I'm watching it. I'm like, this is like every leftoid does this shit where they're sitting there eating at an expensive restaurant and they're telling you how the world has to change to make things better, but they're completely disconnected and it's just a script. And he's doing that because he's trying to fit in with these people. And that's one of the things that, like, he doesn't believe any of that shit. He doesn't even know what it is. He's just saying it because you're supposed to say it.
And
And
everyone at
that's
the table
exactly
knows that
what.
they don't believe in that shit either, but like that they
No,
have
but
to keep
they're
up the
all.
appearance that they do.
Yeah, they're all in on the lie that they tell each other about how much they care. And I love that because it's so, like, obvious what's happening. And everyone is pretending. And it's like, this is why he doesn't, he works with these people, but he doesn't like them. They're not his friends.
Yeah.
He just has to be around them. And they
It's
probably feel
interesting
the
that
same way about him.
it's
What was
interesting
that?
that you caught that. Sorry, it's interesting that you caught that. It feels like a script because actually, like a theme in the book is he'll verbatim repeat like articles and ads and stuff that he reads. He's like a mirror of whatever he consumes, which is whatever is popular.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
that
I
makes
mean,
sense.
they kind of show that in the movie where I don't remember which one it is. He goes like 40 restaurants in this fucking movie. But he's at he's at a restaurant and he's talking to the girl that's all like drunk and shit. That's all like drugged up or
Yeah.
whatever. Well, and
Uh,
again, we're jumping around a little bit, but he like basically repeats this like review of this particular like dish like verbatim to her.
yes, yes, the dish. Yeah. I remember that. There was one restaurant that we never do get to see, though. We
Technically.
never get to see Dorcia. That's the
Yeah.
Yeah.
only one we never get. Because
It's the ultra desirable. It's like his like
only
everyone's like
Paul
ultra
Allen
materialistic
gets
goal.
seats at Dorcia. He's the only one that gets.
Right.
So we'll never know what that place is like.
So we get next scene, he's using like a street side ATM and he walks alongside this random lady and it's late at night and they get like shoulder to shoulder like waiting to cross. And you can see like the lighting here is like really brilliant because like they say hi to each other and like her face is all like nice and well lit and he gives this like really like malicious like smile and it's like totally like obscured by like the darkness.
Yeah.
The haunting music plays when he sees her. Oh, I just love that music that comes in. The little like hymn with like the like child like singing really creepily.
And we don't show or the movie doesn't show what happens to her, but obviously we can make easy assumptions because the very next scene he's at an Asian laundromat and he's arguing with him about getting blood stains out of his sheet. So like it's pretty obvious what happens there.
It's obviously wine.
No, it's cranberry juice. I
Cranberry. Yeah.
swear.
Cranberry, yeah, it's cranberry. That's right. It's cranberry. Which, by the way, is another one of
Cran
those.
apple.
This is another one of those weird scenes where everyone can see that, and no one is assuming it's blood. Like the
Yes.
Chinese lady and the people that work there at the laundromat, the dry cleaners, and the woman who shows up. They run into each other, and she sees it, and she's like, "Oh!" And she has a look of shock. But then he says, "Oh, it's cranberry juice," and then she's just fine. So like,
Yeah, because he
I
doesn't
don't know.
fit like most people's like ideal like profile of someone who would do shit like that because he's like this like really well kept like handsome rich corporate guy. He doesn't
Sure.
fit like a weird serial killer kind of vibe. He threatens the Asian lady in the same way he did with the bartender, but the Asian lady
Mhm.
seems to react to it. So maybe he actually said it this time and was maybe just
Yeah.
hoping that like she didn't understand what he said, so he actually said it. But she did seem to like be like, "What the fuck?"
Which is weird because she's the only one that doesn't speak English that seems to get it.
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah, so then like someone he knows walks in and he looks like immediately uncomfortable and she gets like super wide-eyed like seeing the stains and gets weirded out for like a second, but she still wants to date him and these are obvious like red flags, but women are kind of retarded, so she's like into it anyway.
Well, that's another thing too is that maybe because women do tend to be attracted to dark triad men. You've I mean, as an aside, you heard the story of the guy. His name is like Wade Wilson. No, I'm not talking about Deadpool. The guy's literal name is
I
Wade
thought.
Wilson. He was like covered in tattoos, and he like double murdered two women. Like, so he killed two women, and he's like serving time, and he's getting love letters from women like constantly. Like they can
Yeah.
fix him, because he's a decent looking guy despite the face tattoos and everything else. So, and the murdering. So it's I don't again I don't think they knew this. Like, I don't think this was supposed. It's another one of those accidentally based things where you're revealing something about female nature that people don't usually want to accept. So
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of instances of like serial killers, like high profile ones, like going to jail, and like girls like picketing outside, like wanting to fuck him. It's super fucking weird.
yeah,
Well,
yeah,
they're lucky they have us, because if it was just women, they'd be dead in 2 weeks.
it's true. All right.
So
Anyway,
next scene is he's back at his place, and he's fucking got porn on the TV, just casually in the background, talking to that girl that he's having an affair with. He calls to make a reservation at Dorsia for dinner and gets fucking laughed at off the phone.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's
So
right.
yeah, this was the girl. Yeah, this is the girl that was all like pilled out or whatever that I was mentioning when I went forward
Courtney.
earlier.
Yeah, the one that he was having an affair with.
I'm so bad with. I don't know why I'm so bad with names in this movie. Like I'm just like
I'm bad
constantly
with
like
names
missing
in
them.
general, so it's okay.
Clearly, you've seen it enough to know her name, and you've read the book, so at least we have that.
Hmm.
So it jumps to him and her, Courtney, I suppose, in the limo, and Bateman goes, "Is that Donald Trump's car?"
Yeah, yeah.
Is that Donald Trump's car?
There's a
That's
lot
a
of
funny
that too,
thing.
where people are thinking they see people. That happens a couple times in the movie, and I don't know if that's like a running gag or something, but yeah, that was pretty funny.
Dude, the funny thing in the book, Trump comes up a lot. Like Trump is his idol, right? Because he's like a New York icon, especially in the '80s. Makes sense. I think that if this movie were made today, they would just milk that like
Oh
so
yeah,
hard.
for
It would be
sure.
so
Yeah.
in your face.
They'd have Trump show up while he's murdering somebody and fucking somebody else, giving him thumbs up.
Didn't they
They
make like
would like,
an
yeah,
American Psycho like reboot, like a show or something, and it was like terrible?
they did a reboot.
I'm pretty sure there's like a reboot or a
I
remake.
know there's a sequel that was really bad.
That might be
Yeah.
what I'm thinking of.
Yeah, they made a sequel with Meg from Family Guy. What's her name? Um, I'm
Uh,
I'm serious. It was
Oh
like
yeah, that's yeah. It's
completely misses the point. Like it was a terrible movie. I didn't watch it, but I knew. I was like, they made a sequel? Nah.
American Psycho 2.
Yep.
mhm. You want to
American
talk
Harder.
about low budget?
Yeah, right. They probably spent twice as much money on the sequel.
Was that in theaters, or was that some like straight to DVD like bullshit?
I'm pretty sure it went to DVD. I think I saw
Yeah,
it in
I
the
think
video
so.
store back in the day, like a Blockbuster or something.
Mila Kunis, by the way, I was blanking
Yeah,
on
Mila
her.
Yeah, there
Kunis.
you go.
Yeah.
Oof, 3.7 out of 10 on IMDb. That's tough.
Yeah,
24%
don't
on
do
Rotten
it.
Tomatoes.
Don't do it. Don't do it. It's bad. I'm
I don't
sure.
know.
Sure.
We might have to torture ourselves with that at some point.
Dude.
The
Okay.
the book has a proper sequel, but it is not. It has nothing to do with that.
Yeah, I'm sure. It's probably completely different
Is it good?
Janeway.
I haven't read it. I'm not,
Okay.
this is read the first one.
His mistress, Courtney, is super high and sedated, so he took her to a different restaurant and said it was Dorsia. And this is where like he did the whole like repeat that like dish review like verbatim
Yeah.
that we talked about earlier. Yeah. Then, back to the office. Lewis, the gay guy, like complimented Bateman and like touched his suit, and he was like, "Your compliment is sufficient. Like don't fucking
Yeah.
touch me."
Yes. Your compliment was sufficient, Lewis.
And
Yes,
then
Lewis Brothers.
we get our first look at Paul Allen, played by Jared Leto, and like this actually becomes like really important, I guess, to the whatever plot this movie actually has, where he thinks Patrick Bateman is actually Margus Halberstram, some other guy
Mm-hmm.
that looks kind of like him, which I really didn't think they
Yes.
looked that similar. They just dress similar and have similar glasses.
Well, that was
But
another
they're
thing
like
the
empty.
movie. Go ahead, man. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say they're like empty shells. So even though they look different, the internals are all the same. So they start to blend into each other.
Yeah, they're
Yeah, they're
like empty walking like corporate suits, basically.
right. They're trying to suggest that like that all of the men in this company are interchangeable and that there's no distinction. So like even though they do distinct from each other, if I remember correctly, Bateman explains like how, oh, it makes sense that they would confuse us because, and he describes how they have the same, suits and the same glasses brand, but he has a slightly better haircut. you know so he's doing the distinction, but like, to the everybody else, everybody looks the same, so they're constantly confusing each other for other people.
And then we get to like the famous like scene with like the business cards or whatever that's been memed to hell and back.
Yeah, I still love it though.
I never really understood what the point of the scene was. Was it just that like they were, I don't know, like they were all basically exactly the same, but
Well, they were they were so similar. It's basically the same thing that is the difference between them as people. Like their business cards were all basically the same with very slight differences, and they were trying to one up each other. So it was like this like extreme competition at the most petty but also the highest levels. And I don't know, I wanted to ask though, Kramer, was this in the book, the business card scene?
Oh yeah, yeah. Actually, the director, Mary Herron, she was kind of slavishly faithful to the book. So the book is like really, really long. So they left out, I don't know, like 80% of it. It's like a lot of violence and stuff. But she was very faithful to the book. Didn't add anything. Changed a couple of lines. And that was the thing is she wanted to go even less narrative driven. She wanted it to be even more hectic than it is. But of course, you need like at least some linearity to it for it to not to be like crazy confusing.
Yeah.
So you guys were saying that like the people who made the movie were like woke feminists, like weirdos and shit. Was the book also written by someone like that?
No, I think he's more of a middle ground kind of guy, but he did like
Moderate feminist guy.
yeah, like he said some okay stuff. Like I said, he said that the book couldn't be released today because feminists are incapable of like understanding that there's deeper meaning behind the face value of the violence. But he also said, I thought I wrote a feminist book by showing how women are treated poorly in like a hyper consumeristic society.
Which is hilarious because women are the biggest consumers. So like they're
That's
the
the
Yeah.
reason
thing.
for
That's
materialism.
That is
Um,
why it feels like this is falling on. The reason it resonates with us and with men is because the problems, it's like they recognize the problem, but don't realize one, that they are part of the problem, and two, that what the proper solution is, right? They have their idea of what a solution is, and it makes shit a lot worse. But they see the problem, we see the problem, we identify with the problem, it resonates with us. They're saying that the problem is you. You know,
yes.
the problem is you, the solution is for you to become a bitch, to become a woman, basically.
So yeah, the business card scene was in the book and it was pretty accurate.
Yeah. And I'll say I think this scene, I think what it's supposed to do is it's supposed to alienate the viewer, because this is kind of what it feels like looking at like different like super hyper fixated fandoms and stuff. From the outside looking in, these business cards truly are all the same, and it is
Or
pointless.
Yu-Gi-Oh cards or Magic the Gathering cards.
Yeah. Yeah. But if you
Like I
know, if
wouldn't get that. I would feel alienated. Right. I
yeah,
gotcha.
if you're steeped in the world, if you're
Pokemon
part of
cards.
that, yeah, these little minute things they're all a battle for status, right? These things are
Yeah.
actually important to them.
Yeah, that's what it
But
is. And that's
you're
why, yeah,
yeah,
go
you're
ahead.
supposed to feel alienated.
Yeah, I think the fact that you're like, what's the point of this? That is the point. Because if you are in there going, no, I actually think Bone is better than, Off-White, then yeah, you're part of the problem. But like yeah, and I think they were basically when you have guys operating at what they think are the highest, like these are like no matter how you want to think of them or what the intention of the writers or directors are, these men are the top 1% of dudes, right? They go to the most expensive restaurants, they have the money, they're high status. They're as high status as it gets, at least in the context of that. So when you get to the point where you have like a handful of guys at the very highest levels of society, then the only thing they have left to do is compete with each other on the smallest, most petty levels. So they're looking at each other's business cards. They're talking about each other's haircuts. They're talking about like what their apartment is like. Do you remember when he gets into Paul Allen's apartment and he sees that Paul Allen's apartment is nicer than his? Like these are like the small ways, like that people who don't that take what they have for granted are likely to do because they see they're always looking at what the other guy has, and that's what they're doing with the business cards. That's what I see anyway.
Yeah, you're right. I think, you nailed it like from the very beginning. Like they're competing over like these like ultra minute details, but like they're
Hmm.
ultimately all the same because the people there are all the same. They're all like empty suits.
Yeah, yeah. To each other, they don't mean anything. And then on top of that, the women around them are the same. They're just as petty and they're just as materialistic and shallow with the men that they're with. So like that's why they treat each other as they sleep around or whatever. because except for the secretary, Chloe Jean, is that because she's
Jean.
sort of
Yeah.
like lower class.
Mhm.
She's like a lower class person, so she's more authentic. She's more real than the other women, than like his fiance, for example. And the other thing is with the business card scene, why is it when he says, "Let's see Paul Allen's card," then it becomes like this big moment where they're like pulling out in slow motion, everyone's reacting to it. Even after his friend, supposed his friend Bryce said, wow, that is spectacular. With about what's his name's card, Van Patten, I think is Van Patten's card, and Bateman is like, I can't believe that he preferred Van Patten's card to mine, right? Even though it was a little thing, but when Paul Allen's card comes out, everybody stops, and I think that the point of that was so that Bateman would say he was basically looking for the guy that is the most competition for him, and that's the guy he has to do something about. If that makes
Right.
sense.
Yeah, I agree. So then after the card scene, like we get to the next one, and it's him walking down the alley at night, and he runs into this homeless guy. He's talking to him. The homeless guy's name is Al or whatever, and he basically gives him the, in different words, pull yourself up by your bootstraps speech. So I guess Peyton is like the boomer final boss. So like the homeless guy Al calls him kind, and then Bateman immediately starts to just shitting on him. He stands up and he like looks around to like make sure like no one's looking, and he opens up his briefcase, and Al thinks he's gonna like gift him some money or something like that. But instead, like we get our first on-screen killing where he puts gloves on and then stabs him and then fucking stomps that dog to death and walks out
Yeah.
of the alley.
Yeah, him killing the dog was probably the most evil thing he does in the movie.
Yeah, for real. And this scene is so much
Easily.
worse than the book. Like he takes his time. Like he stomps the dog's legs first and is like crawling. He like stabs the hobo's eyes out. It's like it's
Whoa.
pretty fucked up.
Can I ask you, is the hobo black in the book?
I don't remember. I actually don't remember if they say his race.
Yeah, I need to know. Did they race swap the hobo?
No, I want
There-
to know because he's the only black character in the movie that is affected in some way. There may have been
Yeah,
some like
or even
extras
has
in the
li-
background, but like
or
what?
even has lines maybe. I don't know. Yeah, I think you're right though. It's I don't know. I'd have to look that up because I don't remember. Like
Yeah,
race does play a pretty big part in the game. I'm sorry, in
in
the
the
book.
book.
Yeah, because like we get a little
I
bit of
read.
that with the Asian dry cleaning scene. You're probably gonna want to cut this,
Yeah,
Dean.
yeah, yeah. I
But
do.
in
Nothing.
one
No,
scene
no cuts.
he runs he runs into a Jewish bakery, and then I think if I remember correctly, he tries to get like meat and cheese, and he's like, "Give me meat and cheese, and I'll combine them." And then he calls them cunts, and then just like runs out.
So okay, so then, but okay, well, what is Brett Easton Ellis saying about that then? Like, is that just something? Is that the white thing? Is he like supposedly like an Ubermensch now, or what? Like, what's that about? It's kind of
I,
random. I mean, it's funny, but
yeah,
I
I
don't
don't
know.
know why hasn't anyone asked him about the race stuff? They're always like, "What's with the sexism?" I actually haven't seen any people getting mad about the killing like and stuff, but
Black homeless guy.
yeah.
No, because well, the thing is, okay, so he kills the black guy, but we're supposed to think of him as the villain, and that's why I'm wondering because I think like directors when they make movies, then they pay attention to details that a lot of people take for granted. I don't think that they. I think that it's all very very intentional. I mean, you're shooting multiple times, you're casting very specific for very specific reasons. And I think that the scene where they make the Jew jokes early on, where all the guys are really insensitive about Jewish, like, I don't know, practices. But the guys are spinning a menorah, and he's like, "You don't spin a menorah, you spin a dreidel, right?" And
Yeah.
that's where he gets cool with the anti-Semitic remarks. And then like later, he's yelling at the Asian dry cleaning place and trying to talk like them, to make fun of the way they talk. And now he like stabs a black homeless guy. And obviously they're trying to say like this is, when they say toxic masculinity, they are talking about a lot of the times white masculinity, but they don't say white because they want to leave enough plausible deniability to be able to talk about any man at any point. But white men are safer to use as a proxy to condemn all men. So when you see when a white man does this, you're supposed to think of that as typical of white men to, like, be insensitive to Jews, blacks, and Asians and women. Those are like the protected categories. Actually, Asians kind of like that's kind of passe now. You can shit. They're white adjacent, So.
Yeah, no, and I
But
knew that's why you're asking about the black homeless guy thing, because I think that they were trying to do. I don't think it came like conveyed very well. I don't think it's that they're not that good at it, but trying to convey some sort of like racial hierarchy thing in their critique
yes,
here.
because there's no black guys that work at the company. They're all like cookie cutter white guys.
Yeah.
I mean, even the gay dude looked different. He had like a bow tie and like a bad haircut. So they were also singling that out too, while also claiming that Bale's got like, or Bateman has some kind of like, he's like in the closet or something, like struggling with his sexuality.
So then like we get to the scene after that, and it's him at some sort of like massage parlor or beauty salon. It's kind of seems like it does everything. Um, like massage, nails, tanning, all that kind of shit. And he's like contemplating like his own sanity and like saying that it's like starting to slip.
I laugh every time because he's like just staring at that woman. While he's thinking, he's just like staring at her while he's doing it. Nails or whatever.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it is super creepy.
That was weird. Again, another scene that's sort of like, do men really get their nails done like that often? That's another kind of weird scene.
Yeah, that scene without the inner dialogue must be like really weird.
You ever see this is a little bit of a derailment, but you ever see those compilations or whatever where it's like sitcoms and like sitcom jokes like without the laugh track, and it comes off
yeah.
super fucking creepy and like mean spirited?
What's even better, look up Big Bang Theory laugh track replaced with vacuum cleaner sound. That's really good.
So then he arranges dinner with Paul Allen at a Christmas party, and like part of this, like the Christmas party and stuff, is part of like time in this is like you never know like how much time has elapsed between each scene. Obviously, like it was with the homeless guy, like they mentioned how like cold it was out, so it had to have been like late fall, early winter, I would assume. But really, there isn't a whole lot that kind of threads like the timeline together. But yeah, so they're at a Christmas party, and he invites them to dinner. And they go to this like Mexican restaurant that Paul Allen's like bitching about because it seems kind of low class, like for their standards. And
Sarcana.
yeah, and obviously like he couldn't get into Dorsia, and he doesn't want Paul Allen to get them into Dorsia because then it's like, oh well, Paul Allen is now I'm like the bitch, like he can get this reservation or whatever, and I can't, and he's treating me now. So it's like this petty competition between them.
Yes.
So he has to pretend that this like Texarkana place is like amazing, even though it's clearly probably not that great because it's fucking empty. But then we get like another Trump reference here. Like, is that Ivana Trump or whatever?
Yeah.
We should have gone to Dorsia. I could have gotten us a table.
Nobody goes there anymore.
Is that Ivana Trump?
So they're there sitting at the table. Paul Allen's fucking wasted. And Bateman's saying like more crazy shit. And again, like, he's like drunk, and you're not really sure like if he actually said the thing or not, because we're not sure that Paul Allen would even be coherent enough to understand it. Which like they're actually like this movie's really good about doing that. Like we mentioned like the Asian lady who like doesn't really speak English, but even though she seems like she got it. And then, like the plausible deniability of it being like loud in that nightclub, shit like that. And then this. So like you're never really certain if he's actually saying these things or not, which I think is actually done pretty well.
Yeah, it is. I like how vague they leave it. I think they're trying to suggest a couple of different things with that, but I can save that for later because this comes up. It's a recurring theme in the movie.
Yeah, so the next, like, Paul Allen, they're still sitting at the table. Paul Allen calls Bateman a dork, but he was actually talking about the other guy, Haverstram,
Right. He confused them
mixes
both.
them up.
Because again, they all look the same. So yeah.
So, like, then they go back to Bateman's apartment. Paul Allen's even more wasted. There's, like, all the furniture is all wrapped up, and there's newspaper on the floor, and he's, like, too drunk to really, like, think about it. He's just like, do you have a dog? And Bateman's like, no, I don't. Just happy and like casual or whatever.
But don't forget, he puts on some Huey Lewis.
Huey Lewis in the news.
That's important because again, the music. Why does Bateman listen to the most mainstream and safe music of the time? Because he's trying to conform. He's desperately trying to conform. So he's not interested in like whatever was the trendy, not trendy, but like the sort of like more avant-garde stuff, of the time. He wasn't into that. He was into like what is the most like poppy top 40 stuff out there, and he would like come up with an explanation as to why he likes it, but it all comes down to what other people might think, which is why he said, he gives you this whole like spiel about Huey Lewis and the News and how, they started out and they were too I forgot how he said it, but they weren't like mainstream enough, and then they became mainstream. Yeah, like what Bateman is the opposite of that. He's basically like the bizarro version of that, where he's like, here's the most mainstream shit that everybody knows, and I'm going to explain to you why I think it's good. And he uses he tries to use, like, how do I put this? He uses complex terms to describe something really simple, and and it's hilarious. That's what those are like the funniest parts, like the way that he's dancing with the axe and stuff. Because that's when he's getting really animated. Like, that's the thing too, is that when he's talking about the music or when he's about to kill someone, that's when he becomes his true self. That's when he's like the most lively. I don't know if you noticed that.
Yeah, absolutely. It's like the only time
Very
he
sharp.
seems like happy and like himself.
Yeah.
Like yeah, so we mentioned that, like, he gears up in the raincoat and he's got the axe. And he's like distracting Alan with like you said, kind of like esoteric nonsense about music that like most people like wouldn't care about.
Huey Lewis. Isn't the song
Yeah.
Hip to Be Square? Yeah, it was Hip
Yeah.
to Be Square, which is like literally the thing I'm talking about. It's hip to be square is his thing, you see? And that's the song that he's playing.
Yeah. It's perfect. And then obviously you get the memes of him putting the music on and pointing at it and then dancing with the raincoat. There are an
Yeah.
extreme amount of memes out of this fucking movie. Then he says like, "Hey, Paul Allen," and axes him.
Mm-hmm.
So he starts like dragging his body out like a big bag and shoving it into a taxi, and then he runs into Lewis, like the gay guy, or whatever. He's like, "Oh, where'd you get that bag?"
Yeah,
Paul
yeah.
Gaultier.
He look
Paul
it's like
Gaultier.
he's almost caught, but the guy's asking about where he got the bag from.
Did you guys see the clue there?
No, what
Did you guys
clue?
catch it? So when he's dragging it out and it shows him in the lobby, there's like a trail of blood. When
Oh, yeah.
he's at the car, the trail of blood's gone.
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't notice
I
that.
never noticed that. That
I
I would,
did. I
if I'd
did
have
notice
seen
the
that, I
detail I'll
might have
bring up
thought
later,
that was
though.
a flub or a mistake. So
Like a
it could have
continuity error.
been. It could be, but maybe not.
But
Yeah,
like you said,
I'm willing to think it's
directors.
more like a clue though, because there is something else. I'll bring it up later that I noticed that's kind of in that same vein.
Is it the hair?
No, no. I'll
Okay,
trust me.
I got
I'll
a
bring it up
I got
when we
a
get there.
major clue on the hair too. Let's continue.
So then after all that, like Bateman goes to Paul Allen's apartment and he's just talking about how he's butthurt because it's more expensive than his and has a better view.
Yeah.
So then he like takes a suitcase and clothes to make it seem like he went on a trip, leaves a fake voicemail with like a really bad impression, honestly. I don't know how he thought he was gonna get away with that.
It works though, because again, nobody listens to anybody. Nobody really pays attention. Like, you think
Yeah.
it could be all a lie, or again, it says something about the world he lives in that people don't even pay attention to that. They're like, "Oh, that was totally Paul Allen." He totally went on a trip.
So now it's like back to Bateman's office and we get the him vibing to music meme.
Oh, real quick. So I just wanted to point something out with the Paul's apartment. He goes in there and he's like, "This is better. It's overlooking the park." He comes into Paul's apartment. He's like, This apartment's better. It's overlooking the park." I just think it's funny that like super high status in New York is like, I get to see trees every day.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a funny observation.
Yeah, New York sucks.
Um yeah, so he's at the office vibing to music, and his office secretary Gene tells him a private detective is here to see him, and he kind of like tries to like shoo him away, tell him business. He's like, "You can't go to lunch, like it's 10:30, like he knows you're here." And he's like, "All
Yeah.
right, whatever, send him in." So he like fakes this phone call to pretend to be busy and like nonchalant, and it's Willem Dafoe, who I think gives the best performance in the whole movie, and he's good in fucking everything that he's in.
Willem Dafoe is good in everything. He's a treasure.
Yeah, he's
Yeah,
amazing.
he's good in everything. He always gives it his all.
And like when they have their conversation, it's purposely like hard to tell if Defoe knows or not. Like what he actually knows and what he actually suspects. And I think I remember seeing, which is interesting, that they did like 3 different takes of this entire scene, where like one of them is like he didn't suspect Bateman at all, one of them he was suspicious, and one of them he knew. And they actually like mixed them all up in like the final
Yes,
cut
they
so that the
mixed the
audience
edit.
didn't know. Like, yeah,
Yeah.
so the audience was always like didn't know if he knew either. And I think that's super fucking clever.
Yeah, that was good. Yeah. And again, the he brings up, I think this is hilarious because Bateman is so Bateman is so bad at like lying, covering up. I mean, he does it, but he's not good at it. He's very bad, right? Like any regular detective would know immediately. And this is another thing that where you get this unreliable narrator. But at one point, at the end of the interview, after he gets like, I don't know if you want to get to the details of the interview itself,
Yeah,
but
go ahead.
he Kimball, the detective, pulls out the Huey Lewis CD, and he's like, "Oh, I just picked this up. Right?
Yeah.
Do you listen to these guys?" And he's like, and he gets like it's almost like he knows that if he says yes, that's like giving it away, which is weird because like he's the only one. Like no one was there, but he goes, no, I don't. And then he's like, oh well, what? And he says he's too black sounding for me. So so he basically makes a, I guess what people consider a racist remark to throw him off the scent, but it's like, but he doesn't even know you like that. Like it completely makes no sense, but it's really funny.
It is very funny.
Yeah.
That's the funny
you know,
thing about these interrogation scenes. I think Willems Dafoe's character is like the worst detective ever because Patrick Bateman always looks so guilty, especially the very last one where they're at the
Yeah.
restaurant. It's
yeah, he would be horrible at LA Noir at
Oh,
detecting
yeah.
like the facial
Yeah.
I
expression.
think they're messing with the audience too because they're, again, it's almost it's cartoonish how he gets away with this, not just from the detective, but from everybody that he runs into. Like things just work out for him somehow.
Yeah, absolutely. And during that scene, we get like 2 more memes. We get like the 1 second meme and like the thanks meme.
Yeah.
I cannot stress enough how fucking many there are, and
Oh
they're
no,
used so much that they're so
the movie was
recognizable.
made for that. It's one of the reasons why the filmmakers and various like thought piece writers and shit are so like bewildered by the popularity of this movie. It's the memes. That's the reason. So
Yeah, so during that interview, like Bateman tells Defoe that Paul Allen was gay and a drug addict.
yeah,
It's that Yale thing.
yeah, it's a Yale thing.
Which actually, I mean, Skull and Crossbones. I actually thought they were dropping some real hints there about Yale and Bush and all that crap.
The skull and bones shit, yeah. Back at his apartment, like he works out with women screaming in horror movies in the background.
Yeah, it was Texas Chainsaw Massacre was playing. I think.
Yeah,
I thought that's what it was, yeah.
Yeah, it was the
I
end
haven't
of
actually
Texas
seen that
Chainsaw
movie
Massacre.
though.
horror
I
and
watched it
slashers.
I watched it last October. I never seen it before.
Is it good?
I've
Like as good as everyone says?
It's a product of its time. I think that it's and again, it was another one of those movies that like it's super subversive. I don't want to get into it right now, but the guy he was making a commentary about America and like the American family with that. So if I don't if I didn't know what I know, I probably would have recommended it. But being that I do, I don't know. I mean, you could watch it as a study on like what the ways that
would just
filmmakers
forget all that shit and just watch it for how insanely
yeah,
visceral
just
that
watch
movie
it for
is.
what it is. I can do that. I can do that with anything. But yeah, I mean, Texas Chainsaw Massacre it was very cutting edge for the time, just to keep it simple. But by today's standards, it's not that shocking. So it's actually very
Yeah.
tame now. But at the time, it was like, holy cow, so real. So
It is hard sometimes to enjoy media, like when you know too much and like
yeah.
you can see it from a mile away. You're just like,
I
fuck.
can enjoy things like I can go on I can enjoy things while knowing what it's trying to do, and then that actually makes it easier for me to enjoy it though, because I'm like, okay, I know what you're doing, but I'm just gonna enjoy it for what it is. Or we'll do like what we're doing with this movie, where it's like, yeah, I see what you guys are doing, but I don't care, because I like it for these reasons. And
I think the best way
that'll
to fight any of that
puzzle them.
stuff is kind of like what people have done with this movie, where they
Yeah,
just like say like,
embrace
yeah,
it.
whatever, fuck it, like
Yeah,
yeah, we're just gonna meme it. He's totally me, that kind of shit.
yeah, like American History X.
Okay, American History X. That is a that is a whole nother can of worms. That's a movie we should definitely get
Yep.
to.
Yeah.
And maybe Kramer, if you're interested, maybe we'll have you back on for that one. That was fucking.
That would be a
There's
good
some
one.
things to be said about that movie, to say the
Yeah,
least.
for sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
Even like I saw that in high school, like at the same time, pretty much I saw this one,
Yeah, they came
and
out around the same time, I
yeah,
think.
like the ending, totally like I was like, wow, they just undid any point I think they were trying to make. We won't. Let's not get too far into that because
No,
there's
no,
nothing.
but that's a good example of what I'm saying when I say that there's movies that are like we're gonna say this thing and then but they're too honest with like building up to it, and so you're like, okay, well, I guess you pulled something off.
Right. Like that's like the left's like biggest weakness is like they can't laugh at themselves ever.
No,
And like we can. So like we'll take things that they're trying to use like to make fun of us and like we'll make jokes out of it and we'll think it's funny or we'll like identify with it. Isn't that where like chud came from? It was supposed to be like some kind of insult. And
Yeah.
now
Yeah.
I don't remember what it stands for.
Stands
I can
for
cannibalistic
humanoid underground
underground
dweller.
dwellers. It's a movie called The Chuds, and they're like these sewer creatures that.
Yeah,
Never mind.
and now like every online like right winger just calls themselves chuds and they don't give a shit.
Yeah,
So
they
the
just
left
absorb
can't
it.
meme
Like,
has always been
It's
true.
it's our word now.
yeah, this is our
We
word now.
chuds now. We chuds. It's our word now.
We was chuds.
Yeah, we was chuds.
So he goes and like picks up a hooker in his limo, which by the way, this driver, like what the fuck, man? Like he's had to have witnessed a bunch of crazy shit. He is the most reliable driver ever. That guy is so fucking loyal. He must be paid a lot.
Yeah.
He picks up a hooker and bribes her with extra money to like come to his apartment because she says she doesn't usually do that. And then he calls someone, I guess some escort service or
All
something. And
girl. So he gets like a low quality hooker and a high quality hooker.
yeah. Yeah, he requests that she has to be blonde or whatever. He named like the first one Christy. He didn't ask her names; he just named them like pets,
Yeah.
which is fucking hilarious. And then he named the second one Sabrina. So like the first one's like bathing, and he's like, "Oh, like clean your fucking pussy out or whatever." And he's just like sitting there chilling, like watching in this like totally like James Bond esque like tuxedo. And it's funny.
Yeah.
Remember when we talked about Goldeneye? We talked about like other potential like British actors to play the part. And I think I mentioned like a young Christian Bale, I think could do it. Like now he's too old, maybe. But like back in
Yeah.
those days, like when it was 2000, so Brosnan was still Bond. But like when he had that tux on, I was like, yeah, I could totally fucking see that.
Yeah. I mean, but now that he's played Bateman, I don't know. Like, it's hard to see. Like even when they cast him as Batman in those Batman movies, I just saw Bateman. Bateman the
Well,
Batman.
maybe Bateman's his like second like secret identity, other than Bruce Wayne. They're both rich guys.
Yeah.
It kind of checks out.
Yeah, it's true. They're both rich guys.
He's capable of violence in both ways. It kind of checks out.
I think that's why they cast him as Batman, actually, because of American Psycho. I think that's how he got the role.
It would make sense.
Honestly, I think that he sold it, and they were like, "Oh yeah, Batman's kind of crazy, so let's get this guy."
He went from this to Machinist, right? And then he was like way underweight. And then I think he went to Batman, and he was like super skinny, right? Yeah, and he had to like put himself through that transformation. It was brutal.
Yeah, he did some permanent damage to his heart doing that.
That's right.
Yeah. So I'm looking at his filmography, and he, in between the American Psycho was like 2000. He was in Equilibrium, Reign of Fire. I think he was bulky for that one.
Holy shit! I forgot about Reign of Fire.
Dude, that's a great movie. I love.
I've
that
never
movie.
seen the movie, but I played the cheesy fucking like PS2 game.
Oh, dude, I like it's him. Was it what's the name of the other guy that was in that? All right. Like Matthew McConaughey, and yeah, it was good. So anyway, yeah, he did American Psycho, Reign of Fire, Equilibrium, The Machinist, and then Batman Begins. So his weight was kind of all over the place if you look at it. It's crazy. But anyway, sorry.
Yeah, so he gets the high class one. They named Sabrina, and he's like complaining that she's not like blonde enough.
Yeah, like
he calls himself Paul Allen, like full first and last name, like to the hookers. I thought that was interesting.
Yeah,
and it's his apartment, Paul Allen's apartment, or
yeah,
was
the
it
woman
his
says you have
apartment
a really
at the time?
nice
And
place, and
yeah,
he gets kind of butthurt over that.
That's so
And he's butthurt that the hookers don't know where he works. Like they're not familiar with his firm, and they don't really give a shit either.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So then, like, he starts playing music and ranting about it again, which seems to be like kind of like his like killer ritual, I suppose.
Phil Collins this time.
Yeah,
Or was
Yes.
it no, wait, I think it was I think it was Phil Collins, and then later he plays Whitney Houston.
yeah,
Yeah.
he does. Like with the redhead girl, he plays Whitney Houston, and she like makes fun of him. So like he goes to bed and tells the hookers to like get naked and dance, and he's like setting up a camera. And so like he's like fucking them, but he's like looking at himself and flexing in the
He's
mirror.
flexing his muscles, yeah.
And like the lower class hooker like notices and thinks he's fucking weird.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So then like later like they're asleep in bed, and you know Bateman wakes up. He opens like a drawer of like weird tools, probably for like torture devices and such.
Clothes
Then it,
hanger.
like yeah, and that too. And then he cuts to Sabrina with a bloody nose, and like the girls are leaving and they're all like upset. So we don't really see
Yeah.
exactly like what he did, but he did something.
Yeah, he hurt them, but he didn't kill them, and he sent them home. So
Yeah.
is that in the book too, or
Yeah, there's a lot of scenes like they come in and out. So this
they may have
exact
just
one-
felt like they had to do something with the hookers, even though there's a lot of that in the book, and they kind of condensed it into like a couple of scenes.
Too many hookers to
Like-
count.
they
Yeah.
changed it a tiny bit. This scene was definitely in the book. I don't know if it was exactly like this. I can't remember, but yeah, it was. It was like building up to the eventual. Like you have these characters that are returning because we see these hookers a couple times until he works his way up.
I guess so. The next scene, like it cuts to a lounge, and they're talking about how like ugly women are the only ones with like good personalities. Like they have to kind of
Yeah.
like make themselves not suck to make up for the fact that they're not good looking.
Yeah. Yeah. Again, this is another scene of guys, ragging on women because of the. Probably, maybe it was in the book too, but it was definitely like a welcome addition to the story.
This Ed Gein quote is in the book too.
Mhm. Oh yeah, what would it look like? What a head would look like
Her
on a
head
stick.
on a stick, and then he
Yeah.
just goes a little bit too far, and they're like
and he
kind of
starts
creeped
laughing,
out.
and they're like uncomfortable. They didn't even know who he was. Didn't like when he
Yeah.
mentioned
Ed Gein. Yeah,
they were
he's
like,
like
who?
maitre d' of I forget which restaurant he says, but it's like maitre d' of this restaurant. He's like, no, serial killer, cannibal.
Yeah, you can see like he really enjoys talking about that stuff because it's like the only people he truly like relates to internally, and everyone else is
Interesting.
super creeped out by it.
His hobby.
Interesting detail. Ed Gein is actually what the Texas Chainsaw Massacre is based on. So there's
Oh, wow.
probably like a bit of foreshadowing.
Ah, that's really interesting. I didn't know that.
Well, of the murders, it's loose, but that was kind of the inspiration for Texas Chainsaw Massacre. And the director thought that Ed Gein was like, I guess he thought of him as prototypical of American families, but basically like rednecks. That they were like redneck in the book.
Libs always
Or
do that, where it's like, oh, God forbid, like you're out in the country, like everyone's like racist and like they hate you and they're all in like cahoots to murder you or whatever.
Yeah.
Like they've
I gotta
made
tell
like
you,
Libs like
the rednecks
terrified
are
of
the
like
coolest
oh.
people. I live in Virginia and I'm brown. I don't have a problem with them.
They're the nicest fucking people
Yeah,
ever.
they're super down to earth, man.
I love Southerners. They're the best.
All right.
So then like I keep in my notes I keep forgetting his name, Lewis. So he's just written as gay guy. So,
Lewis. Oh yeah, you
so
wrote his
Lewis
guy.
comes up. It was kind of like when we did Accepted and there was Hands or whatever, and I kept
Yeah.
forgetting his name or whatever. So he was just black guy in the notes. But
He was the token black guy in that.
he was, yeah. We need at least one. And in this one, I guess it's the homeless guy. So he like
Black
comes
guy
up to
dies
the
first.
table.
What?
At least the first one on screen, yes.
yeah.
That's probably the best movie trope ever. It's super funny. So, Lewis comes up and like shows his card to the table, and it just like sets Bateman off. So like he goes into the bathroom and he's just gonna fucking like strangle him to death in there. So he like puts his like hands around like his neck like while he's pissing, and the gay guy who wants to like fuck him
shit.
like totally like thinks that like he's into it. And he starts just like
Yeah.
kissing his hand, like confessing his feelings and shit. And Bateman just gets like crazy weirded out and just storms out of the whole fucking place.
Yeah.
On
They ask
first
him where
watching
he's
that,
going, and he says, "I got to return some videotapes."
Yeah, I
Yeah,
think that's
there
the
you go.
first instance of that line. Yeah,
and the thing when I first watched this, I was not sure. I thought he was shocked and disgusted because a guy just kissed his arm. But I think his like internally, he is the like barrier between what he wants to do and what he's actually is going to do is starting to thin and crumble, and he's just shocked that because what he's about to do is, I mean, if he's going to do it, it's pretty bold. Murdering someone he knows, a business colleague, at a restaurant in the bathroom, just middle of the day, right? So he's like just totally freaked out about like, holy shit, I just almost killed somebody and everything would have fallen apart.
Yeah, I think you're completely right. I don't think I saw it that way. I think I was just like too busy laughing at how funny I thought that shit was.
Yeah, I
But
know, right?
totally right. I totally agree.
Because I
What do you
was
think
with
about
him, I was like, oh, gross.
that? What do you think about that, Brian?
Yeah, no, I see that.
Also, he stopped his stream and then turned around.
That's talent.
Yeah, that's true.
That's pure fucking talent.
He's like, shoops, like
That would give me a cramp.
clenching.
Yeah, I gotta give it to
Tuck
him.
that shit back in.
Patrick.
Well,
I was thinking of a parody scene where he just turns around and he's still peeing. It just pisses all over him.
well, I mean, to be fair, the scene might end the same way with him walking out in disgust.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they totally could have went that route. So then we cut next to the next one. It's Willem Dafoe at his office again. And we get another like I was returning videotapes line.
Yeah.
Dafoe seems more suspicious this time, and this is where he shows this. I didn't have it in the notes last time because it was this time. This is when Dafoe shows him the CD of the same album Bateman put on him
okay.
Killing Paul.
Mhm.
Okay, I was wrong. You're right. Yeah. Yeah.
I
Because they're
was,
like
I was,
getting to know
I was
each other,
like,
too.
yeah, and I was like thinking, like, man, did I forget to write that? But no, I guess it was just in the next meeting. So then like Bateman, like that scene ends. Bateman's fucking his mistress, whatever. Then they go to a nightclub, doing coke in the bathroom with coworkers. He's talking to this like model girl at the table, and to him, he says murders and executions, but
Yes.
she says mergers and acquisitions. Again, it's another nightclub, and it's really loud. So did he really say that, or did he not?
Yeah. Or are they saying that mergers and acquisitions is basically the same as murders and executions? Like, because remember, we are talking about something that's criticizing, like capitalism and materialism. And I think that they tend to see like just business as a form of murder and execution.
Do you think
So
that
it
this
could
is
be
like
they're doing a
a
double meaning.
capitalism critique, or do you think this is like a
Yeah.
corporatism critique? Because I do
Well,
think that
these
they're
people,
not
these
necessarily
people are
the
not
same.
They
smart
don't
enough
know
to
the-
make a no. These people are not smart enough to distinguish between the two things, though. They would just
I
say
think-
capitalism no matter what.
I think that's
Yeah.
absolutely true because of the people who do say like, late stage capitalism this and, whatever. Like they don't really understand the difference between like actual capitalism and like crony corporatism.
No,
Because
they
if they
don't. They
did,
think
they'd
it's all the
probably
same.
have a different take. They'd have a different slogan.
Yeah, and I think that because like the thing is too is that I'm perfectly. I think that materialism is deservedly like critiqued, right? Because the
Yeah.
world is not purely material, but materialism came out of liberalism, and
Yep.
that's the thing that these people don't get. Like we've abandoned, like the sort of like the spiritual, and we did it like with the boomers, like we did it like a long time ago. And so
Yep.
like when people criticize like people who criticize capitalism, they're usually just criticizing property rights, like just owning things, which we all have a right to, and then they'll use like corporations or like crony capitalism or stakeholder greed or Wall Street or banking. They'll use all those things to criticize just people owning things, and then it's either because they're not smart enough to know the difference, which is, by the way, I don't use the word capitalism because it's a word made up by communists to criticize
That term
people who
itself
own
is a
things.
propagandistic term. Yeah.
Yeah, it is. Capitalism itself is a propagandist term, exactly. So I don't use it. I just say property rights. And because that's what it is, like it's my thing. I either made it or I bought it or I acquired it with my labor, and so it belongs to me. But and what they'll conflate those things with, like I said, corporatism and stuff like that. That isn't that. It's not the market. It's not a free market. And also just greed in general. Like they'll say greed is capitalism. I say no, greed is a human problem that we've had way before we had money. It goes back to Cain and Abel, right? So that's another thing is that because we only see the world today in a material way, then people don't think of greed as a human problem. They think of it as a material problem, and that's why they So like I said, just so that you guys know where I'm coming from. When they do this stuff with the mergers and acquisitions and the murders and executions, it's a play on words and it's clever, but I do think that there is a tendency or desire to conflate them to seem the same because these are the same people that think that, capitalism is murder. But of course, it might be because that's their fucking made up word. But like if I, buy a piece of land and I till it myself and I grow my own food, I'm not taking anything from anybody. And I
Yep.
mean, that's an extreme version of that. But you know what I'm saying? So
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Yeah, no, I think you're right. They're not smart enough to really make a distinction between the two, sadly.
no, or they don't
Because I
want to.
think that we'd have a lot of common ground, like if the general lefty was more intelligent about how they critique these things. Because I do
Yeah,
have a lot of issues with crony corporatism, things like that,
yeah, me too. And materialism, and I
and
think that
materialism.
these people,
Absolutely,
but I think these people are materialists too, because well, it's a consequence of liberalism that we have materialism. So they are liberal. That's why so they're not going to abandon their liberalism because that's the thing they'll have to confront if they want to challenge materialism. And they are materialists because they tend to be secular, so they tend to not think of anything outside of their own life, which is why they tend to not want to have kids, and they tend to want to live as long as possible. They are entitled to like the best lifestyle. They look down on people who aren't doing that well, even if they think that they're sympathetic. It's all fake though. So anyway, we're getting off
yeah.
topic. Apologize.
It's yeah, it is off topic, but it's a good rant, and I couldn't agree more with that. Yeah. So then, like, there's a possibility, right? Like, it's a loud club that maybe she didn't hear him. If he said it actually like out loud at all. And then like they're outside the nightclub, and she says something about like how like he thinks like shitty of her or something like that. I didn't write that part down, but I do remember it. He went home with the model from the nightclub, and even though like she had said that he said something kind of like degrading about her like profession or whatever, like she kind of like ignored the red flags anyway and like went home with him. So then next scene, like he shows up with like a lock of her hair that he's like playing with, and so like it's presumed that like he killed her too. And I was asking, like, you mentioned hair earlier, so
Yeah.
like is this like the continuity with the hair thing that you're talking about?
Exactly. Yeah. This scene, like taken on its face, it looks pretty like realistic. Like, oh, he's got a hair. He's playing with hair. He put it in his pocket. But then he goes to doing the exact same motion with a pen in his hand, and to
Ooh.
me, I feel like that is showing that that basically was all in his head. Like it was the pen the whole time. He was just doing that motion and imagining it was that woman's hair.
That's a good catch.
That's interesting. I didn't notice that. Yeah, so
Yeah.
like after that, like Bateman invites Jean, the secretary, to dinner. And she thinks that he can get a reservation at Dorsia, so that's where she wants to go. Um, so then we get like the two like kind of two memes in one. We get like him with the sunglasses meme, and then like him on the phone with the sunglasses meme. But he's like talking. He calls Dorsia or whatever, and you can hear the phone call. Obviously, she can't. And he's
Yeah,
just saying like, yeah, okay, like dinner at 9, yeah, perfect, thanks. And she's like, you didn't even like leave a name. And he's just like, yeah, like they know me. So he's not a good liar, like as Brian was saying earlier about like everything
terrible.
with the foe. But he wants to meet her at his place for drinks first. And obviously this is because he plans to just kill her, and he doesn't actually have a reservation anywhere. um he before that though, like he says like to change clothes like again.
Yeah,
So we get to the apartment, and he's like I guess entertaining her. She's on the couch or whatever. He's like grabbing some like ice cream to give to her. And when he opens the freezer, you can see like that model girl's head is in the freezer.
Mm-hmm.
um he mentions things like he's not good at controlling like his willpower. The way that they're talking about it, like she knows who Evelyn is but doesn't know that they're engaged, I guess. So I guess he
Yeah.
just thinks
oh
she
yeah,
loves
yeah,
seeing
yeah,
her but not engaged to her.
yeah.
And while they're talking about that, like he's in the kitchen, like looking at knives and tape and like power tools and shit. Which, by the way, isn't it fucking crazy to have power tools like in a New York City apartment where you don't have a need for power tools?
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's a
right.
great image.
Then he talks about serial killers again. He brings up Ted Bundy and admiration, and she doesn't even know who the fuck that is.
Yeah, yeah. She doesn't
So
even know what the tape is, right? Is that what you're referring to? Well, she asks him, "What is
Oh,
that?"
she
And
asked
he's
what the
like,
tape is for. I think he's like, "Oh, I just have to
"Yeah,
tape
we're taping
stuff or whatever."
something."
Yeah.
Yeah.
But he brings up Ted Bundy and she doesn't know who that is. And I'm not sure what years the Ted Bundy stuff was, so I'm not sure how like recent that was in comparison to the setting of the movie.
Let me see.
I
I
thought
don't
they
know
were
either.
both 80s, maybe Bundy was 70s, but I'm not entirely
No, it was the
certain.
late 70s. Ted Bundy was the late 70s.
So, they're still talking, right? And like he's holding like a giant fucking nail gun like to the back of her head. And she has no idea because she's not turning around. She's like mentioning that she just wants to make somebody happy, and she's like referring to him. She clearly like has a thing for him. Um, and then like while they're both on the couch, like there's a voicemail from Evelyn that plays. Um, so obviously, like there, like it displays it like she knows who Evelyn is, and she asks if she should go, and Bateman actually like I guess kind of spares her because he's saying things like, I don't know if I can control myself. If you stay, something bad might happen. You might get hurt. You know, and those two, like, she thinks like she just he means like emotionally, but obviously he means it in a, in a very different way.
physically. Yeah.
Yeah. So he seems to take like mercy on her for whatever reason. I'm not really sure what the reason is.
I have a theory, but I want to know if John knows something because you read the book.
What was your? What were you wondering? Here,
We-
my notes went kind of dead, so I don't
Right.
have.
So,
We were asking like why he spared his secretary.
yeah, why you think he spared the
Uh,
secretary? If there's anything in the book on it, or if you have a theory.
I think this is another case of him just going too far and like realizing he's kind of always playing with this wanting to be caught and not wanting to be caught. He's like stupid and smart at the same time, right? We're talking about these instances where he's coming off as like sometimes he comes off as like an idiot with some of these mistakes, right? But if it's all in its head, he's getting away with these things. Um, I think that, like I said, I think this is a case of him, the barrier between what he wants to do, um, and like needing to stop himself starts to disintegrate. He's smart enough to know that he shouldn't kill somebody like directly that he works with, like he's not going to kill his coworker, he's not going to kill his secretary. These are like red lines of I'm actually going to get caught. Like there's no way because he's still under the impression that he can get caught and there's a little part of him that wants to get caught.
All right. Let me tell you what I think. If you guys don't mind. So
Yeah.
he had killed other women at this point, but the women he had killed, and I'm trying to look at this not from the perspective of Patrick Bateman, but the perspective of the director and the people who wrote the screenplay. Because that's all I got to go off of. Because Patrick Bateman, like basically these people are writing the story. So those women were women who I think were probably thought to either have deserved it or they were worthy sacrifices for the narrative that the story was telling. Like he had to kill women and prostitutes were better than, like a hardworking secretary that was apparently not in that world. Like the secretary is not, she doesn't go to these lunches. She, probably lives in a small place. Like she's obviously very like demure and small compared to everybody else, in this world. And I think that she's very nice to him regardless. She doesn't seem to be disingenuous like all the other people around him. She seems to be a real person. And I think that he has a brush with that, and that she is like so sort of considerate of him and all that. And so there's a actual connection that happens. And I think even though he was still going to kill her, I think he lets her go because I think that she contrasts his own amorality by her existence. And I think that the reason why I say that the screenwriters might have had this in mind is because they wanted a woman in the story to be like the good woman that basically like at least changes his life in some way. So this is a significant thing because he kills Paul Allen, he kills the prostitutes, right? I think like that comes later. Does that come later? Where with the chainsaw and shit but anyway,
Yeah. Yeah, we'll
like
get there.
so he kills the bum, he kills the dog. He is obviously killing people and some of them are pretty high profile. Like Paul Allen was like the most alpha dude in the company at this point. So, but he gets away with it. At least he's gotten away with it thus far. But I think this woman she is like the avatar of the lower class secretary woman, like the most oppressed person other than the homeless black guy. So I think that they were trying to make her the moral center of the story because there was like nobody else other than maybe the detective, but he seemed to be more of a foil than anything else, right? So I think that's why he let her leave, because she had the most profound impact on him. And it basically, like, it doesn't really change the trajectory of his behavior because the story still has to unfold the way it does. But I do think that this is just my speculation, but my thinking is that the director or the people who made the movie, they wanted a central heroic woman in the story, and she was the best fit because Reese Witherspoon was completely like self-absorbed, and she was part of the problem. The prostitutes were basically just victims of their life choices, and not as although they were still presented as sympathetic, especially the street one, Christy, the lower end one, because you see her injuries and you're supposed to feel for her because they show that, right? That's on purpose, but that's what I think.
Yeah, that's 100% right. Because like she is not anyone who's like not part of that world. They like focus on that person, and you get to see their pain kind of played out.
Yeah,
Yeah.
especially at the end, which we'll get to, because that's another reason why I think she's sort of like the central heroic figure is the secretary, Jean.
So, after that scene, like, right, like we get lunch with Defoe again. Defoe says Paul Allen had dinner with Halberstram, but Halberstram was or has a legit alibi, which probably means that, Paul Allen, like secretary, had it, or like in his like planner or agenda, whatever, wrote down that he had dinner with Halberstram. Not obviously because like he has them confused, Halberstram and Bateman. So
Yeah.
like that confusion does kind of save his ass here. Because if he had written down, I had dinner with Bateman, like right before he disappeared, like that'd be pretty bad. But since he has it written down as Halberstram, which Bateman is clearly not, and he doesn't know that Paul Allen mixes them up, it kind of makes it look more legit. Like, yeah, maybe he did just kind of like cut and run, and like the thing in his agenda was fake. The meeting was fake.
Mm-hmm.
Defoe is like half dismissive and like half suspicious, making Bateman like very visibly unsettled. Like again, like he would really suck at LA Noir because this guy's like sweating and stirring and all this kind of shit, and it couldn't be more obvious.
Yeah.
Like
So
the
then,
Key and Peele sketch with the sweat like shooting out of his forehead.
yeah, basically, Bateman hires that same hooker again, the lower class one. She says that she had to go to the emergency room last time and might need surgery. She talks about like getting a lawyer. He like writes her a check and she like jumps out of the car. But the driver slowly and creepily follows her, and Bateman offers her like another wad of cash, and she totally falls for it. And then like there's another girl at the apartment. I don't think she's a hooker. Like the way that
She's like
they're
a
talking,
friend
like,
of. She's like a friend of a friend or something like that.
yeah, that's kind of
Yeah.
what I gathered.
She's also like a really shallow, part of that world.
Yeah, and she's a redhead this time, so I guess being blonde isn't completely necessary.
Broadening his horizons.
Bateman, he drugged the drinks, and the redhead said that the wine tasted weird. This is where like Christy, the hooker, says that this is nicer than Bateman's other apartment because this time they were in Paul Allen's, so they were in Bateman's apartment the first time.
Mm-hmm.
Bateman asks the redhead if she finds Christy attractive, and it says that they should do like lesbian shit. He puts on and
That
talks about
woman,
music again.
fun fact, that the redheaded woman, that's that lesbian writer that writes with the director.
Oh, who is?
Yeah, Genevieve Turner, that woman, the redhead.
Yeah. Oh, really? Oh,
Yeah,
that's
she
funny.
co-wrote this. Yeah,
That's probably why she got to make out with the prostitute in that scene. That
yeah.
was like the trade-off. Hashtag me too.
So she got paid.
Bateman asks the redhead, okay, they do lesbian shit. He puts on and like starts talking about like music again. So like you can see that like this putting on music is like again like a part of this like killing ritual that he does. And the blonde one is looking at him weird because she's seen this before, minus, the
He
killing.
knows where this is going, right?
Yeah. And even though he said like it'll be different this time, I promise, but clearly it's not going to
Well,
be.
it was.
I mean, it was different in, the ending, I suppose. But
Yeah, it did go a different way. I mean, he's not lying.
You're right. I guess it technically isn't like the last time. The ending is totally different. So Bateman goes to town on the redhead, like under the covers or whatever, and Chrissy like tries to slip away. But
They
then
don't
like
really
she
show
starts.
what he does, but I mean, is that in the book? It looks like he eats her out literally. Is that
Oh,
what
he's
happens?
he eats human flesh a lot in the book.
Oh,
They
okay,
mentioned
okay.
in the movie that he was like eating like their brains and stuff.
Yep. Yeah, the book gets into some crazy stuff. In that apartment, he's doing insane experiments with like electricity, acid, drugs, animals and stuff, rats, like putting rats in people. Like this movie scratches the surface of what's in the book.
But yeah, like I guess he's like eating her out and like Brian said, literally. And
Yeah.
he's got blood on his face and the redhead's screaming and uh Christy runs and she runs into several bodies like in the bathroom in the closet and she's being chased by Bateman with a chainsaw completely naked. um she runs through the hallways like screaming and banging her bloody hands on the doors, and he's still chasing after her fucking butt ass naked with this chainsaw. And she like runs down the stairs and he's like sitting at the top like waiting for like the right time and he just like drops it just in time for it to like impale her.
Yeah,
So then like
point out that's
yeah, go ahead.
really, really unlikely, and that just seems ridiculous. That
Yeah.
I you
I
would
always had a
drop
problem.
you would drop a chainsaw that's running from like high up down a stairway and kill the person exactly right. I think that's another one of those moments of like everything just goes his way inexplicably, but it's funny.
Yeah.
So
There's multiple things that like are read like kind of stick out. It's like there's really nobody on this floor. Like nobody comes out for a woman
yeah,
screaming and
Yeah.
then the chainsaw
yeah,
thing
he's
that
running
always
around
bothered me
naked.
too. Yeah, yeah.
Well, what about
Chainsaw
wait?
thing.
What about when she like goes into the closets and there's just bodies in there and in bags and like there was like stuff that doesn't make sense that
It would
you
smell
should like
really bad.
the time doesn't make sense because she gets up to leave, so they've been there this whole time, and it's when the chase happens. First of all, the apartment becomes really big, like it's a maze, and then
Mhm.
it's almost like a nightmare sequence. And she's like opening doors, and there's body parts and dead people in random rooms. Like the redhead, wasn't the redhead in the bathroom suddenly, even though she was in the bedroom when the chase began. So a lot of weird stuff happens in that scene that makes you think it's like all like a I don't know like a delusion or a nightmare or something.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
think
everything
that's
points
a
to
good
him,
point.
that shit being in his head.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Then Bateman meets Evelyn at a restaurant and breaks up with her, and he's fucking losing it, and she's crying and making a scene. She calls him inhuman and tells him, or he tells her that she's not important to him. And then we get another. I have to return some videotapes.
Yeah.
Yeah, 3 times.
She makes a scene and he's like publicly like she's making a big public thing out of it and he doesn't want to be embarrassed publicly because again he's really concerned about his image and that includes like how other
Mhm.
people see him in like a public setting, especially like around his work colleagues and stuff.
Did you guys feel the budget here too?
Why? What was what was that?
I feel the budget in this scene. If you look around, the set is pretty bad, and they're eating. It looks like they're eating off of plastic plates.
No, I didn't notice that.
That could be another part of the delusion. I don't know. Maybe he secretly wants to eat at McDonald's.
And then while he's breaking up with her, he's drawing the scene of the
Of the
hooker on the
chainsaw.
with the
Yeah.
chainsaw. Yeah, it's like a kid's place. What fine dining place has crayons?
Yeah, exactly.
That's a
Yeah,
good point.
the kids table, right? That's
So then,
true.
like, we get to nighttime at another like street side ATM, and he picks up a cat, and the ATM says to feed me the stray cat.
Yeah,
So he like pulls a gun out and like tries to like stuff it into the ATM, and some lady sees him, and she's like, "What the fuck?" And so he puts a
This
bullet in her.
this was one thing I was trying to remember. Like, it's been I think probably 8 years since I read the book. I was trying so hard to remember. I think he might actually feed the cat to the ATM in the book, but I can't
really.
remember. I didn't have time to look it up. Yeah.
Like he tries to like stuff it in like the slot for cash.
Yeah.
Holy shit! So like he shoots the old lady. You can instantly hear police sirens. He tries to steal like a bunch of cars on the street, but they're all locked and the alarms are going off. You know, cops are pursuing him in a car, and he like in a very action movie way, like shoots and kills them, and then like the car blows up, and it's like really over the top and everything. And this is
Yeah,
where like I found like something that I thought was interesting, or maybe like a continuity issue, where so he immediately goes into this building with a doorman who calls him Mr. Smith. I'm not really
yeah,
sure why. Maybe this is again like they all look the same and empty suits and whatnot. But he pulls out a gun and shoots that guy. But where I thought that was interesting was when he was shooting at the cops, he completely mag dumped and the slide in his handgun locked back, meaning that he was out. Now, I mean, I
yeah.
guess he could have reloaded off screen for all we know, but
I think that I mean the cop cars blowing up was like like I think
kind of
that's
like a
all
hint that
that
that didn't happen. Yeah,
like if we're attributing artistry to the direction, then I feel like that could be definitely a part of the illusion, whether on purpose or not. Brian, as you were saying before, with the blood thing on the ground, was that a flub? Was it like a happy accident? Can't really know.
Yeah.
It's too everything's all over the place. You're not really sure, but
Yeah, I think that
yeah.
just him having a gun was already like because there was no indication that he owned a gun at any point until that point where he just pulled one out suddenly and killed the lady. And I think
in
at
the
that point,
in
like mag dumping, I don't think that even matters anymore because he didn't have a gun. If he did, why would he use a nail gun or try to use a nail gun to kill Jean if he actually
in
had a gun?
the
So
It's quieter.
in the
I
book, it
guess
explains how he gets a gun.
the book. So he does get a gun in the book.
Yeah, I was thinking about that. I can't remember exactly how he gets the gun. But that was that in the book. That was like an organic thing. There was
See, in the
something.
movie, it suggests that he didn't own one, and then he did own one, and then it had unlimited ammo, and it apparently exploded
Yeah,
cars.
yeah. I
So
was
Yeah,
like, what the fuck? Where did
I
he get the
mean,
gun
I know
from?
this sounds silly, but I think that might be like what they may have been going for because even when he blew up the car, he looked at his gun like he couldn't believe that happened. So
yeah.
I think he's experiencing a delusion there or something,
I
you
think
know.
Kramer said it perfectly. Like, if we're going to attribute like artistry to the
Hmm.
directors and the producers here, then we probably have to say that the blood trail thing, him running out of ammo and still being able to shoot afterwards, and the car blowing up are probably all just signs that he's absolutely fucking crazy. None of
Yeah.
this is happening.
Although here's something kind of out there, but I just humor me for a moment. The bit where he's so the directors wanted to do a commentary on toxic masculinity, and they thought that this was like what the book should have been about, or at least they wanted to put this angle in there. And we already know what the filmmakers have done before. Like making the movie about Valerie Solanas, the one who shot Andy Warhol. I think that there is a stereotype of what men like, and that would be action movies where the heroes don't seem to run out of bullets and shit just blows up inexplicably. And I think they were trying to potentially make a link through of those things because these are people who make movies, so they also like view the world through the lens of movies, so they look at what movies do men like. I don't know if you've ever like I've been doing talking about like feminism for 10 years, and one of the things that I know about them for sure is that, and this is just activists in general, they always look at what's in the culture and they use that to view the world. So when they see that men like me, like action movies from the 80s, where it didn't matter if everything was realistic, we just had fun with the explosions, then they're going to like construct a stereotype in their mind about what that means and that means something about men. And I think that they were presenting that in this movie, even if like I don't know if that was in the book where cars were exploding, but I don't think I know that it's in the movie, so I can only speak to that.
No, yeah, it goes totally off the rails towards the end. Cars exploding.
Yeah. So cars are exploding. Okay. So yeah, I think I don't think that the gun having ammo when it shouldn't was a mistake. I think that was on purpose. Whether it was to be delusional or because maybe the people who made the movie don't know guns. I don't know. I mean, it is a woman, so
Even devs who make the biggest shooters on the market don't know guns, so that
yeah, there you
part
go.
probably wouldn't surprise me. So yeah, so like he shoots the doorman, runs by a janitor, shoots him for no fucking reason at all. Then he like runs to his office. And there's like a police helicopter shining a spotlight through the window. Calls his lawyer on the phone, admits to everything, like 20 to 40 murders. Says he
Yeah.
ate some part of their brains. And he's having just like a full fucking breakdown. Then it's back at his apartment in morning. So like, if there
Justifiable
were
crap.
cops pursuing him, clearly he got away, and he's safe. But yeah, so it's morning and he's doing his routine thing. And then he goes to Paul Allen's apartment with a breathing mask to clean up all the bodies and all that kind of shit. But he sees that it's like vacant and it's being painted. So there's no bodies or anything. He looks in the closet and all that shit. There's like a realtor showing it off to potential renters. She's like, oh, like, are you my 2 p.m. or whatever? And he's like, yeah. And she's like, you saw like our ad in the Times? And he's like, yeah. And she's like, there was no ad in the Times. And she's very suspicious. Like, she seems like she knows something. So it's really freaking him the fuck out. And then she tells him like, leave and like, don't come back.
Yeah, that was a weird scene, man. What, you have any thoughts on that, John?
No, not like. I think this is just more of showing. It's more of like him confronting the reality of that it's all in his head. Just showing that, yeah, he's kind of bonkers. I think.
Yeah.
I think ultimately the Brett Easton Ellis, the director, the people behind this, I think it's pretty unambiguous. When it comes, like, when all the pieces fall into place, I think it's pretty unambiguous that it's all in his head.
Yeah. When he goes back to Paul Allen's and it's been like repainted, everything is empty. The woman is showing the apartment off to some people, and he's like, it's like the next morning. At least that's what you think. It seems like it's like the next day after all that chaos.
Yeah.
And then like I'm on board with that, like, oh, that none of this actually happened. But then her reaction to him when he says, isn't this Paul Allen's place? I think and then she says, you have to leave, or I think you should leave. That's also like weird, because it's almost like some people think that that this woman is part of a cover up, that this happened and they're trying to like pretend like it didn't happen because they're trying to protect, the fucking company or something. But it is weird. It's very unsettling. Her behavior makes it unsettling. The lady who's showing the place off. But I think that generally I'm on board with this being a delusion still. So
I think really she's just freaked out by his demeanor.
yeah, maybe.
And he shows
Yeah.
up there with like a mask on because he's expecting it to be, a war zone.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. So like he immediately like runs out into the street and like uses a payphone to call his secretary, and he's like crying and panicked and freaking the fuck out, and she has no idea what he's talking about. And then she like searches his desk and finds his like notebook, like daily planner thing with like all these creepy fucking unhinged fucking drawings.
And here's where
Yeah.
that song comes back. This is the only other time that song's used. The little like singy
The one that
song that
played when he was like he was walking with that woman in the street. So yeah, I guess like next, like he's just at a restaurant with his coworkers again, and I think it was the very first one from like the anti-Semitic remarks thing. I think it
From
was
the
the same
first
one.
scene from the opening, yeah.
Yeah, and then he sees his lawyer that he called, like freaking out, and we get the "Why isn't it possible" meme.
Yeah.
Um,
You stupid bastard.
yeah, why isn't it possible, you stupid bastard?
And the lawyer says he got the voicemail, but he just wrote it off as a joke. And he also thinks Bateman is Haverstrom.
Yeah.
So he thinks that he was like like he was Haverstrom, like impersonating
first,
like Bateman
yeah.
as like a joke, like saying
Yeah.
that Bateman is like a weirdo or whatever. So he like doesn't buy it at all. And then we get the "Why isn't it possible?" And he says that he had dinner with Paul Allen like 10 days ago in London. So it seems like he actually did cut and run and go to London. I thought it was interesting. Like they're watching like Reagan on CNN, and they're talking about him lying about like Iran Contra, and they're like,
Mhm.
man, how does someone just lie like that and like remain like so cool about it? Like not realize like, and like Bateman feels like really weird and like alienated by that because he's a liar, and he's like Brian's been saying, not a particularly good one either. He's he's
Mhm.
very obvious about it. He's very good
Mhm.
at like luring his victims into traps or whatever. But when it comes to like covering it up, he's super fucking messy. And so like I think obviously like that none of this actually happened because if it was real, he was horrible at covering his tracks, and he would have gotten caught immediately.
Yeah.
And then the movie basically ends with him saying like this was all for nothing or whatever, and then we get our final meme of him just like staring off in like the 1,000-yard stare, and that's how the movie ends. But yes, I
Yeah.
think that that none of it actually happened. None of it was really plausible at all.
The when he's delivering his monologue, there's a sign behind him that says "This is not an exit," which is a reference to the last chapter.
Is that
Oh,
the title
really?
of the last chapter?
Yeah,
Oh, that's cool.
That's very cool.
yeah,
Yeah.
and this
Like you
this
can't get
monologue
out?
is
Is that
verbatim.
like there's no escape? Is that what the
He's like
suggest?
staring at an exit sign in the. He's like in the book. He's like staring at that sign while he's thinking this. This is not an exit. I can't remember if the sign said this is not an exit or if it was just an exit sign. But he was like staring at the sign when he was delivering the monologue. And this one is like verbatim ripped from the book, and that's how it ends, just like that.
Hmm.
Yeah. This confession has meant nothing.
Mm-hmm.
So I
There's no
guess like,
catharsis.
final thoughts on this movie. I think like I'll start by saying for anyone unfamiliar with the series is like the whole thing started because I wanted to go through like my physical like movie collection because I have so many, and I wanted to like find out I guess like which ones I was going to keep, which ones I was going to get rid of or whatever. And so far all we've had are keepers, and including this one. Like I'm not going to say that this movie for me is like excellent, but it's certainly very interesting and very different. And I think for that reason, like it really deserves a spot like on my shelf. I know that Kramer, you've mentioned like resonation with the character. Even when I watched this in high school and even today, like I don't resonate like with Bateman at all. Um, I just don't know how I could. Like I'm not into hookers or killing people and I hate the corporate world. I've worked in it and I really don't like it.
Yeah.
And I'm also not interested in fitting in. I'm not interested in being different for the like
Huh.
vapid satisfaction of others. That doesn't interest me at all.
Yeah.
So while I like this movie, I don't resonate with Bateman at all, or anybody in this movie. But I still think it's an interesting spectacle, and it's a movie that I've watched. I don't know. I might have seen this movie maybe 10 times over the course of knowing about it like since high school, and I do enjoy it. But I wouldn't say it's like amazing or a favorite of mine. But I do like it.
I mean, I'll tell you why he resonates with me. It's not because I want to fuck hookers or kill anybody.
It's all
It
right. You've been caught. We got it. This was entrapment the whole time.
Got
We
This
him.
is
got
an
you,
Got
Brad.
him.
intervention. Do you
Ladies
know
and
that?
gentlemen, we got him.
Take him away.
I want to talk to you about your music tastes, specifically in Genesis.
Susudio. Susudio all the time. Actually, legit, I was playing a lot of this soundtrack in the car. This was always on my playlists. But the reason it resonated with me is because, and I think this is why it resonates with a lot of like guys is wherever you are, like you have like a mask on. You're never truly like 100% yourself, right? Except for some people who are lucky enough to have super close family or friends and stuff, right? They're very closest people, but you always have a mask on, and if you have that mask on, that drives you insane. Like the farther and farther away you get from your true self and pretend to be somebody you're not, there is a disassociative effect that kind of goes on and makes you nuts, because all the time you're in a business meeting and you're rolling your eyes and you're thinking like I'm just here to collect a paycheck. Like in my life, I am not one of these people. I am like, I do my own thing and stuff. And like, that's why it resonates with me. And I feel like that is why it resonates with other people. I can't speak for them, but that's kind of why I always thought that this movie sort of like got picked up so much by guys.
I didn't really expect that answer, but I do think it's a really good one. And like specifically like in the corporate world or maybe at any workplace, unless you work at like some really chill like blue collar place, you can't necessarily like be yourself, I would say. But I don't know
Yeah.
if you necessarily have to be fake either. Like you can kind of just disengage, I think, and then just like do good work, I guess has been like my strategy. But I actually really understand like where you're coming from. That actually does make a lot of sense to me. I don't know, Brian, what do you think?
About the movie? Well, I no,
The movie
I
in
understand
general
where
and
Kramer, you're a young guy,
reservations.
so you haven't got to the point where you don't give a fuck anymore about what people think. So
That's
I'm gonna
fair.
assume that you guys will grow out of that at some
I saw
point.
a really good not to interrupt too much, but I saw like a really good meme about this, and it was something like to not be yourself is like playing Oblivion and like not jumping around and leveling your acrobatics because you don't want the NPCs to think you're weird.
Yeah, right.
So
By the
for
way,
me,
jumping
it's like
around in
fuck
real
it,
life
like
won't really raise your acrobatics that much, but
Yeah.
no,
Well, if you
I'm
if
still
some
affected by
jumping
the
is
white
necessary
guy,
though.
but if you
debuff.
think
I
about
can't
it,
jump.
but if you think about it real quick, the I caught this when I was 16. At 16, 17, I had realized you can just watch movies for free online. And I went and I watched like 3 movies every single night or 2 to 3 movies every single night for like months. And I went through the backlog of every fucking movie my parents would never let me watch. So when I saw this, I was a teenager. I was in that mindset of like,
Yeah,
I wanted all that shit, the
yeah.
the
I'm doing
money, the
something
status.
naughty. I'm
Yeah,
doing something I'm
well,
not supposed to.
it's all about
Yep.
appearance, right? Especially at
Yeah.
that age, and it
Yeah.
just
Fair enough.
resonated. I feel less like I feel like my view on Bateman is more nuanced now. It's less of just like, he's cool. And I don't like the mask thing. I would say still resonates with me, just because like if you're like a far right wing individual, like that you are like a freak. You are a fucking freak, and you gotta like put that mask on, and it can be insane if you care that much about it, right? If you're not on a
Yeah.
mission.
It can
Yeah.
certainly be hard to where, like, for example, like people want to bring up like politics, like family or friends or other people that you meet, and it's like too much, and like the things they're bringing up are like extremely like misguided and like surface level, and I feel like it's hard to really engage with that. You can't really tell them a lot.
Yeah, you don't want
So
to
in
alienate
that
yourself
sense,
from
you have
friends
to.
and family. So,
Mhm.
no, I get it. But you know what? I think that that's changing, though. I think that fringe views are not really as fringe, and I think that most people, the silent majority, is sort of at least open to new ideas. My thoughts
Yeah, I
on
mean, if you go on Twitter now, it's like some of the things that I guess people like us would have known for quite some time now are now
yeah,
kind of like breaking through containment, and it's like
yeah,
inescapable. Everywhere I look, on YouTube, on Twitter, or anywhere, they're
yep,
constantly talking about it, and I'm just like,
yep.
oh shit! Like, and there's a giant question mark at the end because I don't really know where it goes from here. But
Well,
it's certainly not one thing. It's not boring.
for sure. And I agree with that. I think that it's well, yeah, I think that the conversation is getting out there. And that was the only thing I ever wanted really was to, see that happen. As far as my thoughts on American Psycho goes, I love movies that are quotable. I love quoting films, and American
Hmm.
Psycho has it's very quotable. So that's one thing that I will say that I like about it. This is sort of a surface level thing, but it speaks to the script, which I think is really good. Despite, like I said, I know what these people are trying to do. It doesn't matter to me. I think that as a product, it's good. The art, they made, I can tell it was high quality. I can tell it was very thoughtfully done. It was well performed. And I mean, like, I don't know, maybe the worst actor in the movie might have been the black homeless guy. He was a little like, melodramatic, but like it was all very solid. And I think that it doesn't drag. So like just as a piece of work, I think it's very like solid. And I think it's really quotable. It's not one of those movies I could watch like a bunch of times. Like I have to take a break from it. So I there are some movies that are just rewatchable. That's not one, but I do own it on DVD, and every once in a while, I'll pop it on and watch it and laugh because that's how I see it now. It's kind of a comedy more than anything. And as far as like, what it's trying to say, I think I talked about it, but ultimately, you know what? Okay, here's the thing. And I'm sorry for this is a little bit of a soapbox thing I got to do, but
Do your thing.
okay, so what we're looking at right now. So I've been reading there's this guy, his name is Eugene Rose or Seraphim Rose, and he was
Ah,
in, you know who he is? Father
yeah, of
Seraphim.
course.
He's a saint. He's a saint, okay? Or was.
Is he? I thought he
Um
wasn't a saint yet. I
well,
thought
he's
there's a debate
considered a
about
saint.
it.
I think he
There's
is.
debate about it because of the Toll Houses thing. I think. I could be
Yeah,
wrong.
but I'll just say Father Seraphim Rose for the sake of it. But he's an Orthodox saint. He used to be an atheist. I think he was like, he grew up Protestant, then he was an atheist. Then he was like sort of spiritual and got into Buddhism. And he knew like Alan Watts. I think he was like, and Alan Watts is like this Eastern guy that was into the Eastern stuff. And it was like, he was around during all the hippie movement stuff. And it was in the hippie movement of the 60s and 70s, we had a shift in our entire culture towards like a hard shift towards liberalism. And Rose wrote a book called Nihilism, where he explores like how liberalism ultimately leads to nihilism, because liberalism is like this kind of like individual freedom oriented movement, but it's divorced from the spiritual, it's divorced from the transcendent, right? And so it's empty because it doesn't have God at the center. It doesn't have something bigger. And like anybody who was alive for that, which is basically everyone alive today, they don't know the world before the post World War II sort of hippie movement and all that, right? So like his book was fascinating because I was somebody who would call myself a liberal because I believed in, you know, like these sort of generically good things, like, oh, I believe people should be free, and, you know, like, and somehow thought that was the only way to see that. And what he said, I'm getting to like what this is related to the story. So, you know, because I think it is, what happens is how you get from liberalism to nihilism is liberalism is missing something. It's missing a kind of, you know, like it's a little too like airy fairy because it doesn't really, it's not rooted in anything real, because it's a little bit postmodern. It's a little bit of like, well, whatever's good for you is good, right? So there was a counter movement, or like a swinging of the pendulum away from liberalism, and it was called realism. And realism is, it's still liberal, but it was trying to be like grounded in science and in measuring the material world. And so you had this big push for realism. And then, but the problem with realism is it was missing something spiritual. And all of this was basically like, well, we're not going to go back to God, because that's like, you know, there was like this thing where we can't go back to that because that's bad. So we got to move forward, but we got to find another answer to the God. We got to fill the hole that God has left. Right. So realism was scientific and it was very much material. And then, but that was missing the spiritual. So then you go for realism to vitalism. And vitalism was like when people were trying to stimulate themselves to get to like a higher plane, to grasp at something else. So that's where you got like people doing drugs, and they were like having a lot of sex and getting into orgies and drinking and all of this other stuff, because they were trying to find a way to like raise their consciousness to get to something spiritual. And that's where all these like Eastern mystic bullshit came in, and Wicca and all that. And just wasn't enough. And so when you've exhausted all of those things, when you've gone from liberalism to realism to vitalism, and none of them work, then you end up in nihilism, like true nihilism, because you figure that there's no answer, there's no way forward. And that's only if you don't go back to find something bigger, something beyond yourself, right? And why I'm bringing this up is because I think that the guy who wrote this book, Bret Easton Ellis, and the people who ended up adapting it, and all of the countless people who have their thought pieces on it and all that, they're all in that liberal nihilist mindset. So they're not escaping it. So they're unable to criticize it because they're in it. You know, it's like they're in that frame, and they're trying to like, they're looking for answers, or they're looking for things to say that they can't address because they're too close. Does that make sense? Because they have that, either a liberal or a realist or a vitalist mindset, and they're not so they're inevitably going to head towards nihilism. And I think that, in my opinion, the story is entertaining to me, but that's because I'm on the outside. Like I'm with God. I know, you know, I'm okay. I'm not going to be like Patrick Bateman because but I can see that is a nihilistic tale. And it's also nihilistic about how it talks about the things that it's trying to, you know, take seriously. Like they're trying to talk about men and masculinity and like, you know, and capitalism and all this, but they're all in that materialist frame themselves. So they're criticizing materialism, but they are in the framework of it. So they're unable to do it. So that's kind of like what I have been thinking about a lot with regards to not just this movie, but everything in our culture right now.
I feel that way
Oh,
about a
spot
lot of
on, man.
things, actually. Just in general, like people struggle to pinpoint or criticize a thing or really understand a criticism because they're smack dab in the middle of it, like they are the criticism.
They're too
And
close to it. Yeah.
yeah, I think it's a tough position to be in. But I know that we went over a little bit. I know Kramer has to wrap, so yeah, I guess as usual, Brian, shout out your stuff, and then we'll go to Kramer.
Yeah, you can follow me at Badger Arcade on X, and I host a channel called Honey Badger Arcade where I talk about games and culture stuff, but I also do a channel where I talk more about politics, and it's Badger Live Streams. I host and produce. I've been doing it for like 12 years.
Johnny, you got anything you want to shout out?
Yeah, go ahead and check out. I don't even know if I should plug Chudsoft anymore. We're not even
Roman
really
today.
active on that
Check
anymore.
out Roman today.
Oh yeah, Roman
Plug
a
it.
day. Chudsoft Games. Me and my buddy Power, we made a game called Roman a Day, which is like a mini RTS. It's out on Steam. You can check it out. Appreciate you guys having me on.
All right, guys. Yeah, thanks for coming out. Here's another installment in the Media Matrix series, and not sure what we're going to do next, but we'll figure it out. So, yeah, as always, Brian, thank you for coming. I always appreciate your insight, and thank you too, Johnny, for coming. I think everything that you said was great. Your background knowledge on the book was great, and yeah, we'd like to have you on again.
Thanks for having me.
All right,
All right,
see you
man.
guys.